Chapter 178. In the Xiaolong sacred mountain, the heavens might rolled and spread for thousands of miles. A terrifying aura was constantly rising and reviving, causing all living beings within a radius of hundreds of thousands of miles to float up and down. Feng Sha's face was solemn and his eyes were like torches as he stared at the sacred mountain. A figure was majestic as if he was in harmony with the heaven and earth. His words and actions were accompanied by the great Tao. The immortal sect's Taoist robe was swaying in the wind, making flapping sounds. His eyes contained many vicissitudes of life. In the Xiaolong region, a immortal sect was born every few thousand years. It was very rare for two immortal sects to appear in the same era. This showed how noble he was and how talented he was. Nangong Yuanhong approached from afar and appeared in front of everyone. He looked like a middle-aged man in his 30s. He was vigorous and mature and had an indescribable charm. However, his actual age was definitely more than 1,000 years old. The reason why he still looked like this should be because he was very young when he entered the Tao Master realm and rebuilt his body. So it's kill. Nangong Yuanhong stared at the embroidered word on Feng Sha's shoulder. His voice was hoarse and there was awe in his eyes. He was not in awe of Feng Sha, but of the organization behind him. Don't spread it. Feng Sha coldly interrupted Nangong Yuanhong. Why are you looking for me? Nangong Yuanhong asked faintly. Lord Nangong, Tian Jizi has something to ask of you. Tian Jizi bowed and said. Tian Jizi, why are you not comprehending the heaven's secrets in Tianya Valley? What's more, is there anything in the Xiaolong region that you can't predict? Nangong Yuanhong frowned and asked. Lord Nangong, do you remember that I brought back a baby 10 years ago? Since then, I have a granddaughter called Yi Jianmo. Tian Jizi secretly transmitted his voice to Nangong Yuanhong. I remember. I have been in seclusion since the banquet. What happened that made you so cautious? Nangong Yuanhong asked curiously. Actually, that little girl wasn't an orphan that I picked up. She's a direct descendant of one of the higher-ups of the Heaven Secrets sect. The Tianji sect calculated that she only had a slim chance of survival, which was in the Xiaolong region. That was why they asked me to bring her back and adopt her. But now she is missing. I can only find out that she is now in a dead area. Beside her are Yi Lingyu, the disciple of Tianyatsi, and Lu Ning, the current young highness of the Lu family. As for the other one, he is called Yi Qingquang. I don't know where he came from. I am worried that Yi Jianmo will be in danger, so I want to beg you to help and bring them out. Tianya Valley will definitely repay this great kindness. I will also report it to the Heaven Secrets sect and record it as a meritorious deed. Tianji Zi respectfully requested. Nangong Yuanhong's body trembled. He didn't expect that the 8th grade Heavenly Fortune sect would be involved in this matter. A random expert from such a huge sect could crush Xiaolong region with a stomp of his foot. Moreover, there was the addition of the Edge Fiend. This organization might be even more terrifying than the Heaven Secrets sect. Why did you come here? Nangong Yuanhong stared at the Edge Fiend and asked in a deep voice. My purpose is the same as his. However, the person I want to save is Yi Qingquang. This person has hopes of joining my organization in the future. The Edge Fiend said indifferently, that dead area is very dangerous. I am worried that I will get lost inside. Therefore, I came here to ask for your help. I will remember this favor. What? This Yi Qingquang is qualified to join your organization. What is his background? How come I don't know when such a genius appeared in the Xiaolong region? Nangong Yuanhong trembled. He knew very well what kind of talent was needed to join the organization behind the Edge Fiend. Immortal sects like his didn't have the qualifications. They only looked at talent and battle strength of the same level. You don't have to worry about this. In short, if you save him, not only will you receive a reward from the Heaven Secrets sect, I will also promise you that in the future, I will help you once if it is within my power. The Edge Fiend replied proudly. Fellow Taoists, please take me to that dead area. I will go and take a look. Nangong Yuanhong was excited. As long as he helped once, he would receive a favor from two terrifying large organizations. Why not? The group of experts sped all the way. Lu Su was completely left behind and could only return to the Xiaolong Star to wait for news. On the dead star, Yi Qinghan was crazily training his body. The demon dragon saber that weighed a few thousand kilograms was waved smoothly as if it wasn't affected by gravity. The Big Dipper saber radiance was released and a ripple appeared in the space. Swish, swish, swish. Swish, swish, swish. Pa, Lu Ning was bold and unrestrained. She didn't care about her shyness anymore. She waved her divine whip and the sound was crisp and vast. Occasionally, she would desperately attack a speeding meteorite and her body would be smashed into the distance. Her body was covered in wounds that healed continuously. Every time she was injured, she would improve tremendously. Her battle strength wasn't inferior to a body refiner expert. Swish, 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 she was dripping with sweat and her twin peaks were trembling. She was extremely charming. Her golden silk soft armor could only cover her lower abdomen and sides. Her snow-white skin looked frightening but was actually shockingly flexible. Yi Lingyu waved his saber and used his true origin. The spatial fluctuations he caused were even more terrifying than Yi Qinghan's. A huge meteorite was slashed 3 times in a row and was directly cut in half. Flames shot out in all directions and became incomparably stable. The 3 of them worked day and night to break through as soon as possible. Yi Qinghan, fight with me. At this moment, in this dead area, I won't take advantage of you. Yi Lingyu issued a challenge. Good. As you wish. Let me see how much your saber Dao has improved. Yi Qinghan's upper body was broad and broad. His skin was shiny and suffused with a bronze color. Divine light flowed around his long legs that were comparable to combat weapons. His arms were even more terrifying after absorbing a lot of metal. His azure dragon arms held the demon dragon saber tightly as if they had merged into one. He was now 185 meters tall and was a few months away from 20 years old. However, his soul was already more than 400 years old. At this moment, he looked incomparably vigorous. Please enlighten me. Yi Lingyu exuded a domineering aura. He did not hesitate to use his true origin to wrap his saber. Divine light shone brightly as the sharp saber chi cut through the space and disappeared without a trace. I'll teach you a few moves. Yi Qinghan flipped his arm and the demon dragon saber became sharp and fierce. Killing intent soared to the sky. Lu Ning hugged herself and prepared to watch the two fight. This was all experience. Being able to watch two peerless geniuses fight was definitely more useful than cultivating bitterly for a few months. The 3 of them were originally struggling to move, but now they could move freely and even fight here. Obviously, they had adapted to the gravity here. The speed of their improvement was shocking. They did not know how long they had spent here. This star was so vast that a revolution day was quite long. 1 day here could be more than 10 days in the outside world, or even longer. Continuous improvement made them full of confidence and invincible aura. This stage was very important, especially for Yi Lingyu. As long as he could defeat Yi Qinghan, he would definitely advance by leaps and bounds in the future. From then on, he might even break through to the realm of Tao Master. He might even be invincible among his peers. Their eyes met and sparks flashed. Yi Lingyu gathered his strength and slashed the air with his saber. Swoosh! The saber radiance broke through and the aura rushed to Yi Qinghan. Dragon-slaying style. Boom, 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 Yi Qinghan's long hair was blown back by the aura. He twisted the ground with the tip of his foot and raised the demon dragon saber from bottom to top. He flipped the saber and slashed horizontally. Extreme space-breaking style. Heat waves surged to the sky. The two of them had the aura of unparalleled strength. Their blood boiled and their veins bulged. The saber radiance broke through the air silently and the earth trembled slightly. Boom! At this moment, the two of them were competing with their techniques and explosive strength. Then, they crazily collided with each other. The sound was deafening. Their black hair surged and pierced through the void like steel needles. The rebounding force caused their perlicues to explode. Flesh and blood splattered everywhere. Their golden battle bones were exposed and the impact spread to their entire arms. Thud, 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 the two of them took a few steps back at the same time. The earth kept shaking, but there were no cracks. It was obvious how strong the internal mass was. It was at least hundreds of times stronger than the Xiaolong planet. Golden light circulated and quickly healed the flesh on his arm. Yi Lingyu relied on his physical body and some of his vital essence to fight Yi Qinghan until both of them were injured. Seeing that Yi Qinghan was injured and retreating, Yi Lingyu couldn't help but smile with satisfaction. Yi Qinghan's lips curled up. He said coldly, "Are you satisfied with this? Let me show you the way of the saber." Saber God Chapter, Violent Attack, who could compete with it? Yi Qinghan's aura became violent and overbearing. His black hair danced in the wind. His 5 fingers almost pierced into the saber hilt and became one with the saber. He was cold and arrogant. The aura of the demon dragon saber erupted as if a demon dragon had appeared, intimidating thousands of miles away. Violent attack. The world shall submit. Swish, 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 Yi Qinghan used the extreme divine dragon steps and the violent saber technique at the same time. Countless saber radiances shook the sky and enveloped Yi Lingyu. Peak combat strength. Yi Lingyu revealed his invincible combat stance. His vital essence covered his arms as vital essence filled his body. He held the saber with both hands and allowed the saber radiances to cut his skin. He slowly raised the saber and gathered the momentum of heaven and earth. His figure rose and was indomitable. Savage saber technique, 9 sabers in one. Swish. 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 Yi Qinghan's peak combat strength was against Yi Lingyu's peak combat strength. Their auras surged and Lu Ning was blown back several steps. Her breathing was rapid and her breasts were undulating. Her eyes were filled with shock and unwillingness. She thought she could fight them head-on, but she didn't expect the aftermath to defeat her. A battle of foundations. 2 golden dragons appeared out of thin air and tore at each other. The 2 sabers crossed and pierced through a huge meteorite with an ear-piercing sound. Their blood and bones were broken as blood spurted out from their 7 orifices. What was left of their clothes were torn apart and their bones were covered in blood. The demon dragon saber shook crazily and shook at least 10,000 times in an instant. It directly cut the divine saber in Yi Lingyu's hand into 2. The 2 bodies collided and flew backward while coughing up blood. Both sides were injured. Yi Qinghan fell heavily to the ground and heard a few cracking sounds. At least 4 of his ribs were broken. The piercing pain penetrated his soul and made his face as pale as paper. Yi Lingyu was even more miserable. Although he suppressed Yi Qinghan in terms of cultivation level, the gap between their souls was too big. Moreover, the gravity on this dead star was too strong. Cultivation level was useless. He still had to rely on his physical body. In addition, the saber in his hand was inferior to the demon dragon saber. Even if the demon dragon saber was sealed, the saber's edge could still break his weapon. Cough, 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 Yi Lingyu coughed up a few mouthfuls of blood essence. Although he was slightly weaker, his invincible aura didn't decrease. Instead, it increased. The invincible supreme battle king of the past could now make him cough up blood. Chapter 179. Yi Qinghan's vigorous qi and blood coursed through his body, repairing his ribs. He stood up slowly and looked at Yi Lingyu coldly. He realized that Yi Lingyu was indeed invincible among those of the same level. He might not have used his full strength, but he should be invincible among those of the Life Palace realm. However, he was still unable to defeat Yi Lingyu. Not bad. You're improving fast, Yi Qinghan said in a hoarse voice. He was exhausted after using half of his strength in 2 moves. You're not bad either. You're only slightly injured. Yi Lingyu said proudly. He did not want to injure Yi Qinghan. He wanted to defeat Yi Qinghan completely. Yi Lingyu moved his finger and a broken guqin appeared in his hand. It looked like it would be blown away by the wind, but it made Yi Qinghan's hair stand on end. Yi Lingyu was a king-ranked existence with 2 types of weapons. Very few people could force him to use his full strength. However, today, in order to suppress Yi Qinghan, he had used his full strength. If he joined forces with Yi Jianma, they would definitely be peerless existences in the same realm. Lu Ning did not stop them. She retreated to the center of the valley and stared at the 2. Yi Qinghan held the hilt of his saber and stared at Yi Lingyu. The power of the broken guqin was not to be underestimated. It was an ancient weapon and the sound of the guqin could break the defense of a 5th-grade armor. If the guqin and the flute were to be played together, one would attack the soul and the other the body. There was no need to defend at all. Come, let me see where your peak combat strength is. Yi Qinghan stomped on the ground and turned into a sharp sword, charging at Yi Lingyu with his saber in hand. Whoosh, the devil dragon saber opened a path and the saber radiance danced in all directions. The stable void was almost shattered. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The horrifying sound of the guqin pierced through the air. It was sharper than a 5th-grade saber and cut through the void. It pierced through everything and headed straight for Yi Qinghan. Boom, 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 the sound of the zither turned into a blade and collided with the blade. The force of the impact spread out in all directions, creating a deafening sound. The man and the saber became one, and everything became a saber. The sound blades converged into a terrifying war saber, which was held by a skeleton phantom. It slashed viciously at Yi Qinghan, and the heat waves in the air changed the shape of their muscles. Seize God. The saber slashed open the sky, which immediately healed. However, Yi Qinghan had already rushed 10 meters away and crashed into the gigantic sound blade. The demon dragon saber danced and destroyed the sound blade as easily as crushing dry weeds. After breaking through the giant blade, he continued to slash the skeleton. Boom! The skeleton shattered, and countless sound blades surrounded Yi Qinghan, instantly breaking through Yi Qinghan's physical defenses. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, the sound blades were unstoppable. They cut Yi Qinghan until his flesh and blood splattered everywhere. Even his azure dragon arm was covered in bloody wounds. His waist, thighs, and even his face were covered in bloody scars. It was an extremely cruel scene. Yi Qinghan's eyes were ferocious and almost cracked. He held the demon dragon saber so tightly that it almost changed shape. He danced madly and shattered a large number of sound blades, but there were still a few that caused him great damage. It was as if he was being dismembered. Every time he took a step forward, he would be attacked by more than 10 sound blades. He was going all out. His 10 fingers were spurting blood and his bones were covered in blood. He almost broke 7 strings of the zither. Every time he attacked, he would inflict 10,000 damage to the enemy and 8,000 damage to himself. The 10 fingers were connected to the heart. Only he could understand the heart-wrenching pain. Buzz! Heaven and earth's killing intent converged as the sound of the zither rang out. It was terrifying. Blood sprayed into the air and was burned into nothingness in the blink of an eye. Yi Jianma and the parrot could sense the terrifying killing intent outside, so they hurried out of the canyon to see two people fighting with monstrous battle prowess. Their techniques were peerless, and they seemed to have no regard for their own lives. Their hearts sank. Yi Jianma's small hand trembled. She held the broken flute in her hand and immediately alerted the parrot. "What are you doing? Are you joining forces to bully my master?" the parrot asked vigilantly. "Humph." Yi Jianma snorted and said coldly, "Do you think everyone is as bad as you?" Just as the man and the parrot were confronting each other, an angry roar resounded through the void. Elemental profound meaning blessing. Hua, the terrifying element of darkness, was everywhere and flooded the battlefield in an instant. It rushed toward Yi Lingyu's body with a huge corrosive force. Yi Lingyu was shocked. He released his monstrous true essence and tried to keep the terrifying element of darkness out of his body. However, the element of darkness was everywhere. It was everywhere and crazily tore at his chi, blood, and vitality. The sound of the zither was disrupted and became fiercer. However, the accuracy of the attack was slightly off. Boomerang saber. 12 styles of leaving hand stance. Extreme Dao flipping saber stance. Yi Qinghan struck out at least 10 moves in an instant. His speed was like moving clouds and flowing water. It was terrifying. Blood flowed from all over his body. He turned into a peerless god of war. His body left the ground temporarily and descended from the sky to suppress Yi Lingyu. Yi Lingyu was furious. His 5 fingers pulled 7 strings and turned them into a sky-shooting divine crossbow. He suddenly let go and the sound of the zither turned into a terrifying divine weapon that crashed toward Yi Qinghan. "Break for me." Blue veins popped out all over Yi Qinghan's body. His strength suddenly increased and gathered in his arms. He ruthlessly smashed Yi Qinghan's sound blade. The sharp blade almost penetrated his body. Golden blood spurted out and his blood and bones were all exposed. However, Yi Qinghan did not retreat. Instead, the demon dragon saber kept vibrating and smashed onto the broken zither. Buzz! The zither strings and the demon dragon saber vibrated at the same time, shattering the bones in their hands. The heart-wrenching pain caused them to throw the weapons in their hands at the towering iron mountain. However, they did not shatter. Yi Qinghan's iron bones emitted a golden glow. Using his elbow as a saber, he swept across Yi Lingyu's neck at lightning speed. One with the saber. Everything was a saber. His body was a saber. Every part of his body was a saber. Yi Qinghan had achieved this step. Boom! Yi Lingyu had no time to dodge and could only extend his arms to block. His 2 arms collided like battle weapons. Yi Qinghan was powerful and Yi Lingyu suffered a terrifying pressure. His leg bones were broken and he half knelt on the ground. His kneecaps were shattered. He supported himself with one hand and resisted with all his might. He was unwilling to submit. Kacha! Yi Qinghan exerted his strength again. His invincible physical body battle stance burst forth and directly broke Yi Lingyu's right arm. He lifted his leg and kicked towards Yi Lingyu's head. The iron leg suppressed the heavens. This kick was enough to break a top-grade 4th-grade spiritual sword. If it hit Yi Lingyu's head, it would definitely break his neck. Yi Lingyu gritted his teeth and endured the pain. He crossed his arms and blocked the iron leg. Boom! Pft! His arms blocked the leg bones, but they still could not block the leg. Yi Lingyu's body was kicked into the air and fell towards the center of the canyon. He spat out a mouthful of essence blood in midair. Yi Qinghan was bathed in a river of blood. His entire body was covered in wounds. His right arm was covered in blood and bones. He clenched his iron bones and regenerated his flesh. He raised his iron fist and smashed it towards Yi Lingyu's chest. Lu Ning was shocked. She could not allow Yi Qinghan to kill Yi Lingyu. Otherwise, she would not be a match for him alone. Pa! The divine whip transformed into a flood dragon and tore through the void. It cleaved towards Yi Qinghan. The energy tore through the void. If it struck Yi Qinghan's arm, it would definitely sever his right arm. Stop! Retreat! Lu Ning wanted to force Yi Qinghan to retreat, but Yi Qinghan's eyes were like torches. His right fist did not change its momentum. His left hand formed a palm and grabbed at the divine whip. Pa! The divine whip penetrated his body and wrapped around Yi Qinghan's body. However, Yi Qinghan also grabbed the middle of the divine whip and pulled hard, pulling Lu Ning's body towards him. How could Lu Ning's physical body be a match for Yi Qinghan? She flew towards Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan's left hand gripped the divine whip and suddenly clenched it into a fist. His legs crushed the hard ground as his fists transformed into lightning that struck towards the two's chests. Lu Ning and Yi Lingyu's pupils contracted. They never imagined that Yi Qinghan's physical body would be so terrifying. His willpower was even more terrifying. Regardless of whether it was his attack techniques or secret techniques, he far surpassed them. The two of them were still defeated despite joining forces. Yi Qinghan used the same amount of quintessential essence, but the strength he erupted with was more than twice their strength. Flames erupted from the friction between his iron fists. In the blink of an eye, he had arrived in front of the two. The fist force caused their chests to change shape and was about to pierce through their hearts. Woo woo woo, a terrifying sound that seemed to come from hell struck Yi Qinghan's soul and heart. Yi Qinghan's complexion suddenly changed. He felt as if his soul and heart had been struck by a divine hammer, as if they were about to explode. He immediately gave up on attacking and his figure flashed as he retreated. The terrifying sound came to an abrupt end. Yi Jianhua immediately used all of the quintessential essence in her body to grab at Yi Lingyu and Lu Ning. She was sent flying back over 10 meters by the force of the impact. Yi Qinghan stared at this 10-year-old little girl. His pupils shrank. He never imagined that her flute music could reach such a level. Senior Yi, this junior didn't mean to sneak attack you. Please don't blame me. I was just worried that big brother and big sister Lu Ning's bodies wouldn't be able to withstand your fist. Yi Jianhua pursed her lips and felt very embarrassed. She pleaded softly, "You are a senior. We agreed to cooperate and leave this place of death together." Yi Qinghan's divine sense was scattered. His soul was exhausted to the extreme. Blood gushed out from his body, but he still stood proudly. He coldly looked at Yi Jianhua's pure eyes and nodded. With a wave of his hand, he took the demon dragon saber in the distance and quickly returned to the divine dipper tree forest. He sat cross-legged on the ground and was about to meditate to heal his wounds when the parrot excitedly threw out a brocade box. It was the level 5 divine pellet that he had swindled from Yi Jianhua. "Here you go. I will protect you. Heal quickly. This little girl is very powerful. I'm afraid I'm not her match," the parrot said hurriedly. Yi Qinghan opened the brocade box. All the pores on his body opened. A terrifying spiritual energy stirred up his blood and qi. His injuries were actually healing rapidly. This is... Yi Qinghan was shocked. Although he had never seen a level 5 divine pellet before, he knew that it could revive the dead. Even his broken bones could be healed quickly. Don't ask. Eat it quickly. This is the only one I have. To protect my master, I will give it to you. In the future, when you have a bright future, don't forget to reward me with 180 level 6 divine pellets. The parrot said seriously. Yi Qinghan did not want to ask any more questions. He swallowed the divine pellet directly. A terrifying divine power instantly spread to his limbs and bones. His wounds healed quickly and his ability to produce blood increased by 1,000 times. His blood and qi increased by many times. His flesh and blood were quickly regenerating. The bottleneck of the Fate Palace realm was broken in an instant. He had broken through to the Fate Palace realm. His sea of qi and sea of consciousness expanded at the same time. His genuine core energy condensed into a liquid state like a vast ocean. The stored genuine core energy was comparable to that of an ordinary Tao master. His combat strength increased by 100 times. Yi Qinghan could not help but groan. The intense pain in his soul was also gradually subsiding. This feeling was 10,000 times more exhilarating than flying into the sky. The feeling of breaking through. The feeling of his strength skyrocketing. The feeling of being invincible among his peers. It made Yi Qinghan want to stand up and roar. His long hair danced wildly. He opened his eyes and a sharp light pierced through the rainbow like a sword. Chapter 180. Yi Qinghan looked down at the three of them arrogantly. At this moment, he had absolute confidence. You can rest and recover. I won't sneak up on you. Yi Qinghan rushed out of the canyon with his saber. He wanted to use the power of the level 5 divine elixir to strengthen his body. At this moment, Yi Qinghan didn't need to worry about being betrayed. He was in a deadly situation now. If he could escape, his realm would be close to the realm of Tao Master. Coupled with his unparalleled combat strength, he could go back to Owlfall Star and cooperate with Gu Qingyu to defend the place. If he killed the three of them now, his Taoist heart might be affected. After all, Lu Ning had allowed him to tamper with her memories. Even if she regretted it now and wanted to kill him, she had to repay his kindness first. As for Yi Lingyu, there was no enmity between them. In his previous life, Yi Lingyu only wanted to defeat him and solidify his Taoist heart. Seeing Yi Qinghan leave, Yi Lingyu and Lu Ning knew that he was so strong that he did not need to worry about being betrayed. This kind of person was too scary. Except for the people around him who could cause him great harm, it did not matter whether others betrayed him or not. He has become so strong. Lu Ning gasped. She felt that Yi Qinghan's combat strength in this life might be stronger than his in his previous life. I wanted to step on him to reach the peak, but I didn't expect that he would step on me. Yi Lingyu's voice was hoarse. His eyes flashed with unwillingness to admit defeat. He clenched his iron fists and shouted in a low voice, I will definitely defeat him. In this life. Yi Jianma's mouth twitched. He knew that Yi Qinghan could break through so quickly and become so strong because of his level 5 divine elixir. However, he was worried that Yi Qinghan would fight with them again, so he chose to remain silent. Yi Qinghan rushed out of the canyon and waved the devil dragon saber wildly. Shadows of heavenly dragons roared. He used the true solution of ultimacy to carve the void law in the void. With a slight shake, the stable void law was shattered. His combat strength increased by more than 100 times. Swoosh! Swoosh! The saber radiated boundless light and the strength blew the sand and stones into the air. Swoosh! Swoosh! Boom! Yi Qinghan's body slammed heavily into the ground. His flesh and blood splattered everywhere, but with a flip of his body, he charged up again. His blood was boiling. The medicinal effects of the divine pill were fully unleashed. The more he fought, the braver he became. He was terrifying, overbearing, and arrogant. Who would dare to compete with a meteorite? Yi Qinghan dared. The water profound true meaning was wrapped around his body. The water in this place was so scarce, but it was forcefully squeezed dry by him. The dark elemental profound was attached to the devil dragon saber, which was indestructible and corrosive. It was like a demonic saber, which was incomparably terrifying. His corporeal body was constantly exploding and reassembling. His strength seemed to be inexhaustible. It was constantly being consumed, but it was also constantly growing. 1,000,000 caddies, 3 million caddies, 5 million caddies. The azure dragon arm transformed into a true dragon and coiled around the demonic dragon saber. Man and saber became one. Yi Lingyu and the others stared at Yi Qinghan in the distance. He was like a madman who did not care about the consumption of his true essence. When his true essence was exhausted, he used his corporeal body. When his corporeal body was exhausted, his true essence was regenerated. His sea of qi was like an ocean, rolling and roaring. It was as if it wanted to drown the universe and shatter the firmament. It was enough to suppress any expert within the third step of the Fate Palace realm. The parrot had a smug look on its face. It was hanging on a fulcrum above the cliff, leaning against the mountain and tapping its legs with its thighs. It was afraid that no one would notice it. Tisk, tsk, tsk. Master is really awesome. No wonder he is the master of the divine emperor of beasts. Yi Jianma glared at it and murmured, "Stupid bird, you're so cheap. What divine emperor of all beasts? You're just a spirit-eating divine eagle. Don't use your smart brain on the right path. Do you really think no one can see through your background?" The parrot was stunned. It was the first time someone had recognized its identity. "Oh, you actually know my true identity. I am ashamed, ashamed." The parrot was indeed surprised. This race was already extinct. It would be difficult to find another one in the universe. It did not expect this little girl to recognize it. Shameless. You are the most shameless creature I have ever seen. No matter if it is a human, a demon, or an evil spirit, no one can fool you. Yi Jianma mocked it with disdain. "Ha ha ha, you flatter me. Why don't you see where this divine bird comes from? Any one of the wise almighty from where we come from can use their intelligence to suppress you." The parrot laughed arrogantly. "Time travel. Where are you? Where are you from?" Yi Jianma frowned and asked. "You are a frog in a well. The endless universe is so vast. You wouldn't understand even if I told you." The parrot suddenly stopped and did not want to say more. Outside the dead region, stars exploded one after another. Countless meteors were hurtling through the sky, crashing into the stars one after another, setting them ablaze. Volcanoes erupted and rushed into the starry river. It was a dead starry region. Perhaps it had just been born, without the slightest bit of vitality. Nangong Yuanhong arrived in front of the dead region with 3 experts. He stared at the starfield and frowned. He asked doubtfully, "I have been to every territory of the Xiaolong region. There was a small ancient star here before. Although there was no sign of life, there was life. However, it disappeared. Can you cross this dead region with your strength?" Feng Sha asked in a deep voice. "This starfield is a newly born dead region. It is hard to say. The dead stars here are moving quickly. It is a natural 8 trigrams formation. It is easy to get lost. Even a formation master like Tianyatsi would find it hard to get out of this dead region." Nangong Yuanhong's expression was heavy. After thinking for a moment, he felt that even if he was lost here, he would still be able to get out. Thus, he decided to take a risk. With a flip of his wrist, a white ball of silk appeared. He stared at Tianjizi and said, "This old man will go in and give it a try, but there must be a guarantee. This is the 1,000-thread snow, it is endless and extremely tough. Even I can't cut it. I will hold the 1,000-thread snow, you guys hold the end of the thread." "Good. Don't worry. Yizi's life is more important than mine. The 3 of us have people we want to save. We will not give up on the thread." Tianjizi promised in a deep voice. "I am not worried that you will give up on the thread. Even without the 1,000-thread snow, I can still come back. However, this is more cautious." Nangong Yuanhong said indifferently. Then, Tianjizi took the thread and Nangong Yuanhong stepped into the dead region. The surroundings suddenly changed. It was completely different from what they saw before they entered. Yi Qinghan and the others were flying quickly and did not look carefully. Otherwise, they would have noticed it. Nangong Yuanhong continued to release 1,000 threads of snow to break through the wind and waves, rushing into the death zone. His divine sense spread out in all directions, searching for suspicious stars. However, he found countless meteors and dead stars, but none of them could be called a danger zone. Whoosh! Countless meteors gathered in one direction and formed a terrifying meteor shower. They flew past Nangong Yuanhong and made him curious. Nangong Yuanhong followed the meteor shower. He did not know how long he had been traveling. However, it was at least more than a month. The scene in front of him changed many times. If it was not for the 1,000 threads snow in his hand, he would not have much confidence to go back. Although the 1,000 threads snow was said to be endless and could penetrate through the star field, it was still limited. The snowball was getting smaller and smaller. It was about to be sucked dry. Nangong Yuanhong's expression was somewhat ugly. If he could not find any trace of them, he could only retreat. Suddenly, the meteors changed course and formed a huge arc. They rushed in one direction again. Nangong Yuanhong looked over and found a huge star was rotating at high speed. It was about 100,000 miles away from him. The pressure suddenly increased, making his body somewhat unstable. The gravity was getting stronger and stronger. The tearing force made more meteors rush there. It was like a moth flying into a flame. Nothing could escape from his restraint. Nangong Yuanhong's expression changed. He found that he had lost control of the great Tao and space law. He was like a mortal here. It was difficult to escape from the restraint. Bang! Nangong Yuanhong's immortal robe emitted great Tao patterns. The immortal light overflowed into the sky and resisted the tearing force of the gravity. His aura erupted as he struck out with his palm. The tearing force immediately disappeared. He immediately soared into the sky and rushed to the other side to avoid the Death Star. The Death Star did not move according to a trajectory. Instead, it was rampaging without any rules. It did not know how many stars it had smashed into. It forcefully absorbed them and merged them into one. The area of this Death Star was getting bigger and bigger. The gravity was also getting stronger and stronger. Sooner or later, it would devour the entire Death Zone and then Xiaolong region. Nangong Yuanhong was shocked. He knew that this was not good. This Death Star was not as simple as he thought. He exerted his strength and pulled the 1,000 thread snow straight. He frantically escaped to the outer region. Bang bang bang, the Death Star seemed to have eyes. It charged straight at Nangong Yuanhong and smashed dozens of Death Stars along the way. The terrifying scene was overflowing. Flames filled the sky in the Death Zone. Nangong Yuanhong used stellar transposition. He shattered the void and disappeared quickly. The Death Star seemed to be unable to find the existence it wanted to devour. It began to crazily smash into the surrounding Death Stars. Outside the Death Zone, the expressions of the three experts changed. They were both shocked and scared. Nangong Yuanhong's reaction was too intense. 1,000 thread snow was pulled taut and almost broke Tianjizi's arm. Feng Sha hastily extended his blade and wrapped it around 1,000 thread snow. He frantically pulled her back. What did he encounter? Why did he come back in such a hurry? Feng Sha's calm expression finally changed. Something that could make an expert of the immortal realm lose his head out of fear must be something big. Did he find Yi Jianmo and the others? The three experts waited patiently. Their eyes were fixated on the Death Zone. However, other than the vast starry river, there was no trace of experts. Bang! A huge hand that covered the sky shattered the starry river. Nangong Yuanhong broke through the sky. His whole body was covered in golden light. His face was deathly pale. Esteemed Lord, what happened? What is going on in this death zone? Tian Jizi asked hastily. There is a very terrifying Death Star that is devouring other Death Stars. It is constantly growing. The current scale is already beyond my ability. The gravity there is enough to suck me in and I can't fly out. I must go to the outer region and ask for help from an even stronger existence to shatter this Death Star. Nangong Yuanhong said in a deep voice. Are Ez and his children also on that Death Star? Tian Jizi was shocked. If an expert of the immortal realm couldn't fly out, how could they escape? Chapter 181. The Death Star sped along and rotated at high speed. However, it was so huge that Yi Qinghan and the others who were on the Death Star could not sense it. After Yi Qinghan cultivated his physical body, he stared at the barren planet. This was a planet that was even more barren than the wilderness. Nothing had been born yet, except for a few thousand sixth-grade Divine Dipper trees. He had to admit that the endless universe was mysterious and vast. There were too many unknowns. The gravity was so strong that ordinary people could not survive. Even cultivators would be crushed to death by the gravity. Yi Qinghan stood proudly against the wind. He realized that something was wrong. He frowned and said in a low voice, "Why is the pressure here getting stronger? I've been cultivating for so long, but I don't feel relaxed. Instead, I feel heavier." This planet absorbed more and more Death Stars and became denser. The gravity also became stronger. In the end, even the last piece of land with life would be crushed to death. Even the Divine Dipper trees would not be able to survive. Do you feel it too? The pressure here is getting stronger and stronger. It has already spread to the canyon. The planet will swallow us sooner or later. We have to find a way to leave this place quickly. Although he lost to Yi Qinghan in a life-and-death battle, his Tao heart became stronger and his combat strength improved by leaps and bounds. He had already reached the Tao Master Realm and was unparalleled in power. In the outside world, he could fight above his level. Yi Qinghan retreated to the canyon and said in a low voice, "If we want to leave this place, we have to learn the law of gravity. Otherwise, even if we break through to the Tao Master Realm, or even the Great Martial Venerable Realm, we won't be able to leave this place." The law of gravity was illusory and the hardest to cultivate. It was not something that could be done overnight. Everything in the world had something that could suppress it. Since the Divine Dipper trees could survive here, they could naturally overcome the gravity. They must know the law of gravity. Thousands of Divine Dipper trees gathered and pushed the gravity of this land out of the canyon. Towering mountains rose from the ground and blocked meteors from passing through. Therefore, the canyon became a place of life. Yi Qinghan stared at the Divine Dipper trees and decided to cut down one to comprehend the law of gravity. Hum! The demon dragon saber appeared in his hand. At this moment, it became dignified and solemn, as if it was about to break the seal. The saber blade flowed with divine light and shone for thousands of miles. "Master is mighty," the parrot clamored. Yi Jian grumbled coquettishly. She couldn't wait to grab the parrot and ravage it. "All of you, back off to the side. I don't know if cutting down the Divine Big Dipper wood will attract their attacks," Yi Qinghan said sternly. "Yizi, come to your brother." Yi Qinghan's aura flickered as he poured out his quintessential essence to protect Yi Jian. He kept a distance of 30 meters from Yi Qinghan. Lu Ning also retreated to the side. Only the parrot was lying on the branch of another heavenly dipper divine wood with a face full of excitement and anticipation. Yi Qinghan gripped his saber with both hands, tightly gripping the saber hilt. True essence filled his arms, causing the veins on his azure dragon arms to bulge. This saber strike was enough to split open the heavens, but he didn't have much confidence in breaking through the defense of the divine astral wood. He crossed his legs and suddenly burst forth. The demon dragon saber whistled through the sky and pierced through the sky. It passed through the canyon and suddenly disappeared. Even the sound of the gravity outside could not be transmitted out. It was obvious how terrifying the pressure had become. Boom! The ground was crushed by Yi Qinghan. He twisted his waist, and the saber flashed with a cold light as it ruthlessly slashed at the divine astral wood in front of him. The divine astral wood seemed to have sensed danger. Its trunk moved, and the surrounding pressure suddenly increased by 1,000 times. Yi Qinghan's body collapsed, and blood splattered on the spot. However, his soul trembled as if it had sensed the law of gravity. However, a divine light flashed, and it disappeared without a trace. The pressure was still the same, and the saber's momentum slowed down. It crashed into the divine astral wood's trunk. The divine astral wood was unharmed, but Yi Qinghan was forced back dozens of meters. His azure dragon arms exploded, and his golden bones were exposed. Yi Qinghan's expression changed. His quintessential essence flowed through his body, quickly healing his injuries. He once again stepped towards the divine astral wood. The gravity disappeared in a flash, and Yi Qinghan revealed a smile. The divine astral wood was indeed a 6th-grade divine item. It had actually cultivated the law of gravity by itself. Yi Qinghan stabbed his saber into the ground and mobilized his soul in his sea of consciousness to forcefully summon the divine martial imperial codex. He was prepared to forcefully absorb the law of gravity into his sea of consciousness the moment the divine astral would use the law of gravity. He would then slowly comprehend it. This way, it would be much easier to comprehend the laws. Yi Lingyu and Lu Ning frowned. They couldn't understand what Yi Qinghan was trying to do, but they had an inexplicable sense of trust in him. They felt that he could do whatever he wanted to do. The divine martial imperial codex stood proudly in the sea of consciousness and hung in the air. It was like a divine spirit looking down on the mortal world. The pages automatically flipped and emitted a divine light that was filled with thousands of laws. Yi Qinghan's body was almost transparent. Divinity radiated in all directions, and his might was overwhelming. Hum! Yi Qinghan drew his saber and stepped forward to crush the ground. He once again attacked the divine astral wood. Boom, 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 the void exploded. The demon dragon saber broke through the air. This attack contained Yi Qinghan's full strength. The divine astral wood trembled even more violently. The law of gravity turned the surrounding dozens of meters into a boundless hell. The pressure was enough to crush a Tao master. Swoosh! The divine martial imperial codex flipped many pages. The law of gravity appeared. With a flash of divine light, it forcefully absorbed all the law of gravity in the surroundings. It circled above the sea of consciousness and was confined by the divine martial imperial codex. It couldn't hurt Yi Qinghan's soul at all. Boom! Yi Qinghan slashed out and struck the divine Big Dipper wood. The divine Big Dipper wood's defense was finally broken. The blade struck the trunk, causing the bucket-like trunk to shake violently. The pressure became even more terrifying, instantly sending Yi Qinghan flying. The moment the divine astral wood exploded, it seemed to have alarmed the demon dragon saber. The saber kept trembling in the air, as if it wanted to break through the confinement and regain its supreme power. This saber is indeed extraordinary, Yi Lingyu said in a serious voice. Brother, you're even more extraordinary. Why do you care about the present? You'll understand in the future, Yi Jianma said proudly, holding the black copper coin in his hand. Yi Lingyu stared at Yi Jianma and asked with a frown, what do you mean? You seem to be hiding something from me. Some things need to be discovered by yourself. It won't do you any good if I tell you. Trust me, your future won't be worse than Senior Yi Qinghan's. Proving one's way is reasonable, Yi Jianma said confidently. Yi Lingyu smiled faintly. No matter how confident he was, he couldn't say that proving one's way was common. For several generations, there might not be anyone who could prove one's way in the entire universe. No one could say that proving one's way was reasonable. Boom! Yi Qinghan fell from a distance. His right arm was almost broken. The demon dragon saber also fell to the side. The divine astral wood was too terrifying. Even a supreme treasure couldn't break its defense. Moreover, the gravity around it was so strong. Do you want me to try? Yi Lingyu clenched his fists. His blood was boiling. Be careful. It can manipulate the gravity of the outside world. Its comprehension of the law of gravity is stronger than the average immortal realm. Yi Qinghan reminded him in a deep voice. Yi Lingyu nodded seriously. He reached out to grab the demon dragon saber. The moment his palm touched the saber's hilt, the demon dragon saber coiled around Yi Lingyu's arm like a mad dragon. It automatically fused with Yi Lingyu. The saber beam broke through the clouds and broke free from the restraints of gravity. Hum, hum, hum. Roar. The demon dragon saber let out a long hum. It transformed into a dragon and roared. The saber shook violently and forcibly broke the master contract with Yi Qinghan. In the blink of an eye, it had recognized Yi Lingyu as its master. Yi Qinghan was shocked. However, something even more terrifying happened. The seal on the demon dragon saber shattered. A terrifying azure dragon aura filled the canyon for thousands of miles. Even the law of gravity couldn't restrain it. It was like a true dragon had appeared and was overlooking all living things. Yi Lingyu's long hair danced in the wind. Divine light shot out from his body in all directions. His body was illuminated and his sea of consciousness emitted an ancient seal that constantly suppressed his body. This. Yi Qinghan instantly understood that there was another seal on Yi Lingyu's body. Moreover, it was a seal that sealed his sea of consciousness and soul to cultivate anew. The owner of the demon dragon saber was Yi Lingyu. Who is this person? Yi Qinghan became serious. He stared at Yi Lingyu's back as if he was staring at an immortal or even a divine martial expert. An ancient almighty. Without a doubt, Yi Lingyu was the reincarnation of a true ancient almighty. He had cultivated anew. Damn! So strong. The parrot was shocked. Its body trembled as it rushed to Yi Qinghan's shoulder. Brother! Let go of the demon dragon saber. Yi Jianma was shocked and shouted immediately. Boom! Yi Lingyu suddenly turned around and looked at Yi Qinghan and the others. There was no trace of emotion in his terrifying eyes. It was as if a demonic god had descended. One of his eyes was filled with evil, while the other was as pure as water. His gaze swept over Yi Qinghan and was filled with battle intent. Yi Qinghan's hair stood on end. The demon dragon saber was under his control. His heavy berserk saber hadn't been reforged. He was completely at a disadvantage. He couldn't help but clench his azure dragon saber and slowly took a step back. He narrowed his eyes and stared at Yi Lingyu. He said hoarsely, "If you want to fight, wait until we're out of this land of death. I'll accompany you to the end." Brother. Yi Jianma rushed to the middle without hesitation. She looked straight into Yi Lingyu's eyes without a trace of fear. Yi Lingyu's eyes that were filled with darkness and evil gradually faded away. It was exactly the same as the other one. It was filled with light and sunshine. His aura also became vast. The seal in his sea of consciousness became even stronger. It suppressed the demonic dragon's aura and prevented it from hooking his soul. You and I will have a fated battle in the end. Yi Lingyu looked at Yi Qinghan from afar and said coldly. I'll satisfy you. The premise is that we can get out of this land of death. Yi Qinghan clenched his iron fists. The battle intent in his eyes grew stronger. So what if Yi Lingyu was the reincarnation of an ancient mighty figure? If he was defeated, he could also become a mighty figure. The aura of the demon dragon saber had reached the peak of the 6th level. Yi Lingyu turned around and slashed at a divine dipper wood in front of him. The demon dragon saber was invincible. It shattered everything, including the law of gravity. The saber slashed at the divine dipper wood. Sizzle, the saber slashed into the divine dipper wood with a horrible sound. The trunk almost broke. The rebounding force sent Yilingyu flying for thousands of meters. He crashed into a towering mountain. The rebounding force almost shattered his body. His blood stained the iron mountain. The demon dragon saber was too terrifying. However, Yilingyu was still at the junior level of the Tao Master realm. He couldn't fully control it. Otherwise, the saber would have broken the divine dipper wood. A horrible wound appeared on the divine dipper wood. It almost pierced through the wood. However, it could heal quickly. Yi Qinghan was shocked. He clenched his azure dragon saber and rushed toward the divine dipper wood. He gathered all his strength and genuine essence and smashed the wood that was about to break. Boom! The divine dipper wood, which only had a little bark left and was about to break, was broken by Yi Qinghan. The law of gravity was weakened by the divine martial emperor cannon. The divine dipper wood broke and fell to the ground. Chapter 182. Boom! Yi Qinghan smashed the grade 6 divine astral tree into pieces and fell to the ground. The bones in his hand were broken and the divine tree was stained with blood. The straight divine astral tree was only as thick as a water bucket, but it was 50 meters tall. With this divine astral tree, it wouldn't be a problem to forge 3 grade 6 divine weapons. As for the tree branches and wood shavings, they could be smelted and refined into immortal sect robes. They would definitely be stronger than ordinary immortal sect robes. The group was incomparably excited and they all gathered around. Even Yilingyu calmed down. The evil light in his eyes dissipated as he stared at the divine astral tree. The divine astral tree was already broken and the surrounding gravity law had lost control. The group sat down cross-legged without hesitation and began to comprehend the gravity law. Yi Qinghan also sat down. Not only did he comprehend the remaining gravity law, but he also comprehended the law's profoundness in his sea of consciousness. With both of them working together, the gravity law's profoundness quickly appeared in his sea of consciousness. The God martial cannon was fixed on the gravity law. The abstruse gravity law's profoundness surged in his sea of consciousness. Yi Qinghan gritted his teeth and tried his best to comprehend. His soul was highly focused and he was exhausted. The powerful martial saint's soul expanded outwards and felt the gravity in the distance. He tried his best to use the gravity law's profoundness, but the gravity law didn't listen to him at all. His soul was in great pain and his face was as pale as paper. Calm your heart. Merge with the gravity law. The gravity law's profoundness became clearer and clearer. Yi Qinghan was sweating profusely. He could finally use a trace of the gravity law, but it was still unrealistic to use it for his own use. The gravity law wasn't something that could be cultivated overnight. It was always good to take a step forward. Yi Qinghan temporarily stopped comprehending the gravity law and began to cultivate his soul. His face gradually became rosy. The gravity law required a powerful soul to support it. Yi Qinghan and Yilingyu could still comprehend it. After all, one was a martial saint and the other was the reincarnation of an ancient almighty. As for Lu Ning, she couldn't even sense the gravity law, let alone comprehend the profoundness. Yi Jianma also didn't try to comprehend the profoundness. His soul wasn't enough and his cultivation was too weak. Forcefully comprehending it would only damage his soul. The parrot was quietly guarding Yi Qinghan. It was staring at Lu Ning and Yi Jian. It was very defensive. I found other treasures here. Do you want to come with me? I'll give you a share, the parrot said as it looked at the two of them with a serious expression. No. Godly pit. Lowly bird. One big and one small said at the same time. They despised the parrot, and didn't dare to believe its words. TCH, you actually dare to look down on this divine bird? You'll regret it in the future. The parrot disdainfully glared at the two of them. Yi Qinghan was constantly comprehending the laws of gravity and controlling the true meaning of gravity. His control over the laws of gravity was getting better and better. His soul was growing at an extremely fast rate due to his extreme fatigue. Just as his soul was about to break through to the immortal gate realm, Yi Qinghan suddenly woke up. His current physical body wasn't enough to control a celestial gate realm soul, otherwise, it would be easy for things to go wrong. Yi Qinghan shook his head and slowly stood up. Looking at the divine heavenly dipper tree, his heart was surging with excitement. His desire to forge the berserker was getting stronger and stronger. If he had a grade 6 berserker, he wouldn't need to fear Azura Qianye and the others. Yi Lingyu also stood up. Looking at the upright divine heavenly dipper tree, his eyes were filled with excitement. I remember that you know how to refine. I'll break it down and you refine it. We'll split the results in half. What do you think? Yi Lingyu suggested. All right. But before that, I want to forge the berserker. Yi Qinghan's blood was boiling. He held the saber core in his hand, almost embedding it into his flesh. With the berserker in hand, he didn't need to fear anyone. Yi Lingyu didn't waste any time. The divine heavenly dipper tree had already fallen and couldn't control the laws of gravity. A dead tree couldn't block his grade 6 demon dragon saber. Boom! Boom! The first 7 feet of the trunk was cut off by Yi Lingyu's consecutive attacks. Yi Qinghan left the canyon and summoned the smelting divine furnace. He placed it on top of a meteor that had just fallen. The temperature of the crater below was enough to roast a grade 5 combat weapon. The smelting divine furnace was instantly burned red. Yi Qinghan threw many meteorites into the smelting divine furnace, wanting to melt it. Countless meteorites of extreme density were smelted by the smelting divine furnace and gradually turned into liquid. The 7 feet long divine heavenly dipper tree was also stuffed into the smelting divine furnace and melted with the molten iron, becoming one. Yi Qinghan began to inject his true yuan into the smelting divine furnace, crazily increasing the temperature to help the divine wood melt. The divine heavenly dipper tree had divinity. Even after being refined, it wouldn't disperse. It was definitely a supreme treasure for forging treasures. The smelting divine furnace was restless. The surrounding temperature roasted Yi Qinghan and Yi Lingyu until their bodies turned red and cracked rapidly. Not only did the two not retreat, but they also used the high temperature to continue tempering their bodies. Yi Qinghan was multitasking. He was refining weapons, tempering his soul, and finally tempering his body. Impurities and waste were deposited under the smelting divine furnace, constantly removing the impurities and extracting the essence. Yi Qinghan tirelessly added meteorites into the smelting divine furnace in order to improve the quality of the smelting divine furnace. These meteorites were all grade 5 materials. Once their essence was gathered, it could definitely be used to forge a grade 6 divine weapon. Yi Qinghan's soul and true yuan were rapidly depleting. His eyes were bleeding, but he still gritted his teeth and persevered. This smelting divine furnace was going to be his natal divine weapon. It was very likely that it would accompany him for the rest of his life. He couldn't let his guard down. Any flaw could cause his natal divine weapon to break. Under the high-speed tempering, Yi Qinghan's willpower was constantly strengthening. His soul was being suppressed and was stuck at the immortal gate realm. He could only increase its purity, but he didn't dare to increase its quantity. His body was already comparable to a battle weapon. Every part of his body could be transformed into a battle weapon. Yi Lingyu stared at Yi Qinghan. He didn't want to launch a sneak attack. He only wanted to fight fair and square. He wanted to suppress this invincible battle king in the most powerful manner possible. The smelting divine furnace was extraordinarily powerful. It could actually withstand such high temperatures without melting. It seemed that its quality was far from grade 5. It was very likely that it was above grade 6. However, Yi Qinghan didn't find anything special about it. He also didn't understand how such a powerful furnace could appear on Owlfall planet. Gugugu, the molten iron boiled and evaporated. The boiling liquid was surging. Yi Qinghan's soul was exhausted to the extreme. His body was also cracking. Just as he was about to fail, the parrot rushed out and handed Yi Qinghan a brocade box. It was exactly the same as the grade 5 divine pill he had swallowed before. Yi Lingyu's pupils shrank. He glared at the parrot. Obviously, he recognized that this grade 5 divine pill was from Yi Jianimo. I'll deal with you when I get out of here. Yi Lingyu coldly rebuked. This is a deal. Don't you know what a deal is? Who would give you benefits for free? Do you think you are the king of heaven? Without my yin and yang ring, you would all starve to death. How can you be so arrogant in front of this divine bird? Can a grade 5 divine pill save your life? The parrot angrily retorted. Yi Lingyu was speechless. He couldn't reason with the parrot. Yi Qinghan finally knew the origin of the grade 5 divine pill. However, he couldn't be polite at this time. He swallowed the divine pill in one go. His aura greatly increased as he roared. Water origin profound meaning, appear. Condense. The molten iron that had almost condensed into a solid state still contained the element of water. The molten iron that was hot enough to melt everything was controlled by Yi Qinghan's will. It turned into a fire dragon and rushed out of the smelting divine furnace, allowing Yi Qinghan to change it according to his will. Dragon transformation, condensing, the basic embryonic form of the heavy berserk saber appeared. The divinity of the heavenly spirit saber radiated in all directions. The quality of this grade 6 divine saber was self-evident. Fortunately, Yi Qinghan's soul was strong enough. Otherwise, even with the water origin profound meaning, he wouldn't be able to condense the grade 6 heavy berserk saber. Dark element, condense. Yi Qinghan mobilized the dark element in the sky and rushed towards the heavy berserk saber, dyeing it black. The saber was evil and contained divinity and evil energy. Once this grade 6 heavy berserk saber was born, it would definitely cause the heavens to collapse and the earth to split open, triggering the bombardment of lightning. Yin and Yang wriggled on the back of the heavy berserk saber. It contained the 8 trigrams and heavenly dipper arrays to increase its combat strength. With Yin and Yang and the water element, the heavy berserk saber had the ability to self-repair and upgrade. The dark element made its attack unparalleled. Boom boom boom, the 9 heavens tribulation clouds gathered and the lightning tribulation spanned thousands of miles. Before it could accumulate power, it was torn apart by the terrifying gravity. It couldn't cause any destructive damage at all. This gave the heavy berserk saber a chance to breathe and grow under the weak lightning tribulation. The source of lightning was imprisoned when it entered the heavy berserk saber. This gave the heavy berserk saber an additional thunder element, making it even colder and sharper. It had just been born, but it could already stand shoulder to shoulder with the demon dragon saber. Good saber. Yi Lingyu was excited and gave a rare compliment. Yi Qinghan's lips curled up. This kind of heavy berserk was not what he wanted. He wanted to gather the source of all the techniques in the world. Once the heavy berserk saber was unleashed, all the techniques in the universe would submit to it. That was what he wanted. The heavy berserk saber that looked like it was only 7 feet long was actually as heavy as 10,000 pounds. It was the condensation of the most condensed essence. Yi Qinghan formed seals with his palms and the soul of a great perfection Marshal revered rushed out of his body. He mobilized the surrounding laws of gravity and poured them into the heavy berserk saber. The heavy berserk saber became smaller and smaller. Then, the molten iron in the smelting divine furnace rushed out again and expanded the heavy berserk saber to 7 feet. This cycle of refinement made the heavy berserk saber unimaginably heavy. A drop of his heart's blood was mobilized and gathered 50% of Yi Qinghan's blood essence. It was wrapped in true essence and rushed into the heavy berserk saber, causing the heavy berserk saber to turn blood red. At this moment, the heavy berserk saber was incomparably overbearing and domineering. This was under the situation where the saber core was not supporting it. Once it was supported, there was nothing it could not destroy. Even the soul-devouring saber behind the baleful edge might not dare to fight it head-on. The heavy berserk saber was at its peak. It was also covered in dark element evil chi. In addition to the divinity of the heavenly dipper divine wood, it was as if it had a soul. It was extremely terrifying. The heavy berserk saber had Yi Qinghan's heart's blood and a trace of his soul. When it was born, it recognized its master and became Yi Qinghan's life divine weapon. No matter how much it grew in the future, it would not be able to harm Yi Qinghan. The corner of Yi Qinghan's mouth finally revealed a trace of excitement. The saber core in his palm emitted a monstrous pressure. It wanted to merge with the heavy berserk saber and become the true supreme heavy berserk saber, suppressing the heavens. Countless lightning bolts converged from the desolate land like a 10,000 li long golden dragon. It traversed millions of li and tore apart the gravitational force of the Death Star as it blasted towards the heavy berserk saber. Go! Yi Qinghan flicked his finger, and the saber core embedded itself into the heavy berserk saber's hilt. The heavy berserk saber immediately came to life. With a light tremble, the stable space was shattered. Man and saber as one, all things submit. Slash! Yi Qinghan's palms turned into fingers and pressed them on his forehead. His soul controlled the heavy berserk saber to cleave the heavens, wanting to slash apart the thunder calamity. The space was split apart, and the earth could not restrain the heavy berserk saber. The heavens could not suppress it, and it wanted to slash apart all shackles. It was incomparably tyrannical and emitted a supreme battle intent. Chapter 183. Under the control of Yi Qinghan's soul, the heavy berserk saber cleaved through the clouds. No matter how strong the gravity was, it could not be restrained. Yi Qinghan's will was the heavy berserk saber. It could break heaven and earth. Boom! Crack crack crack. The lightning dragons surrounded the heavy berserk saber and tore at each other. It was as if the universe was being destroyed and all laws were wailing. The rotation of the entire dead star stopped for a while. The heavenly dipper saber's attack was unparalleled, and the formation resisted all attacks. It was constantly being refined, becoming more and more majestic and powerful. The lightning dragons were torn apart by the heavy berserk saber. Yi Qinghan's face was pale. He controlled the heavy berserk saber to attack the center of the tribulation cloud, shattering it in an instant. Puff! Yi Qinghan spat out a mouthful of essence blood. The heavy berserk saber broke through the air, and a dragon's roar shook the world. Yi Qinghan's expression changed. This heavy berserk saber was beyond his imagination. Once it was nurtured, it would become Yi Qinghan's true natal divine weapon in a few years. It would be absolutely terrifying. Yi Qinghan reached out and grabbed the berserk rebirth. His aura became peerlessly terrifying, as if he was a supreme overlord. Wherever his gaze passed, all living things would submit, and his battle intent would soar to the heavens. Master is mighty. With the heavy berserk saber, the world is mine. Whoever dares to go against me is going against Master. Ha ha ha. The parrot stood proudly on Yi Qinghan's shoulder. There was a trace of disdain in its eyes. Yi Qinghan's will shattered the heavens. He felt that this dead star could not restrain him, and the heavens could not suppress him. The supreme war god of the past had returned. This heavy berserk saber made Yi Qinghan extremely confident. He gently weighed it. It gathered the essence of thousands of meteorites and half a heavenly dipper divine wood. It weighed 50,000 pounds. It was a little cumbersome in his hand, but he could get used to it when he entered the realm of Tao Master. The sharp and violent aura defeated Yi Lingyu. Yi Lingyu controlled the demon dragon saber and crossed the two sabers, suppressing each other. His violent and domineering aura was unparalleled. He was like the emperor of the universe that could not be compared to anything else. He crazily suppressed the aura of the demon dragon saber. Inside the demon dragon saber spirit roared. It wanted to fight back, but the more it fought back, the more overbearing it became. Yi Lingyu kept retreating, and the demon dragon's aura was weakening. It was about to surrender. Yi Qinghan kept the heavy frenzy saber and hid it in the sea of sufferings, using his soul to nurture it. Once the heavy frenzy saber entered the sea of consciousness, a few pages of the divine martial emperor canon were flipped, emitting an incomprehensible source of great Tao. It was fixed on the heavy frenzy chapter. The domineering and fierce aura fixed crazed Zhong in place, continuously tempering him and increasing his divinity. The great Tao laws supported him and helped him grow. Yi Qinghan stared at Yi Lingyu and said in a low voice, "Rest for a day first. After I'm done with the repairs, I'll forge the immortal Sect Tao robes. Think of any weapons you need in advance. I need 2 immortal Sect Tao robes and a pair of celestial dipper gloves." Yi Lingyu replied without hesitation. Naturally, he wanted to help Yi Jianma obtain an immortal Sect Tao robe. With the celestial dipper gloves, he would no longer have to worry about his fingers being unable to withstand the sharpness of the guqin strings. His combat strength would increase by several times. All right. Yi Qinghan put away the smelting divine furnace and walked into the canyon. He looked at Lu Ning with an emotionless gaze, so much so that Lu Ning did not dare to look at him directly. "Lu Ning, I'll still abide by our deal. I won't kill the innocent, but you'd better watch out. Our relationship ends here," Yi Qinghan said coldly. Lu Ning's mouth twitched. She wanted to say something, but she did not know what to say. The gap between them had widened. Today's estrangement came from the murderous intent that day. Once the murderous intent was triggered, Yi Qinghan would no longer trust her. Yi Qinghan returned to the forest and sat on the ground with his legs crossed. He comprehended the law of gravity and trained his body to break through to the second step of the Fate Palace realm. Yi Qinghan had consumed 2 grade 5 elixirs in a row. A large amount of medicinal properties had accumulated in his body. The blood in his body began to roar and boil. He began to use the remaining medicinal properties to increase the strength of his body and qi. Yi Qinghan knew that if he did not break through now, it would be impossible for him to improve any further. He began to mobilize his ethereal force to break through the bottleneck of the second step of the Fate Palace realm. His veins popped out as ethereal force filled his limbs and bones. Boom, 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 his blood roared like the rolling waters of the Yellow River. His tendons and veins were extremely tough. His blood turned crimson gold like the blood of a god. The pressure rushed out of his body. Even the parrot could not get close to him, let alone others. The overbearing aura was like the arrival of a god of war. The aura of the second step of the Fate Palace realm shocked Lu Ning and Yi Jianma. They had never seen such a terrifying second step of the Fate Palace realm. The amount of ethereal force had reached the limit. It was comparable to the combat strength of the great emperors of ancient times when they were young. Is he going to become an emperor in the future? Yi Jianma pursed her lips with excitement in her eyes. The human race had not had a great emperor for thousands of years. The endless universe was struggling at death's door. The thousands of races were strong and powerful. The ferocious spirits of the Forbidden Land were about to appear again. With the birth of a great emperor, the human race would have a much better life. Golden light filled the sky and illuminated the universe. The vision of heaven and earth appeared simultaneously. Even the Forbidden Land could be magnificent. Ha, 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 a glorious era is about to appear. The great Emperor of War is on his way forward. He will crush thousands of enemies and defeat all the geniuses. He will break through the forbidden land with a snap of his fingers. He will lead the golden holy body and the Guqin saint to cut the path. He will step into the forbidden land of the ferocious spirits of the 10,000 races. The parrot was like a madman. Yi Lingyu and Yi Jianma took a deep look at the parrot. They felt that there was something wrong with the origin of this weirdo. Yi Qinghan's aura suddenly increased again. The azure dragon arm grabbed a few branches of the divine dipper tree and merged them into his arms. The horrifying divinity in his arms shot out in all directions. Tiny lightning bolts penetrated his blood and bones, melting them continuously. Boom! With a loud boom, Yi Qinghan officially stepped into the second step of the Fate Palace realm. The blood in his body turned golden. The golden bones emitted the profound meaning of the law. Even if they were broken, they could repair themselves. At this step, as long as he was not killed instantly, he could repair his injured body. He was twice as strong as when he was at the same level. A few days later, Yi Qinghan slowly stood up. His clothes fluttered in the absence of wind. He stood proudly on the ground as if he wanted to reach the sky. He waved his hand and the 7-foot berserk hammer appeared. The area within 100 meters around him became a forbidden land. Boom! A simple slash was made with supreme majesty. The berserk hammer sword cut through an even thicker divine dipper tree. The divine dipper tree fell to the ground with a loud bang. The law of gravity that burst out was forcibly absorbed by the divine martial imperial codex. I can make the celestial Taoist robe now. Yi Qinghan pondered for a moment and decided to use the treasures here to build a powerful crazy sect. Everyone would have a 5th-grade combat weapon and a set of celestial Taoist robe, which would be enough to sweep the Owl Dragon region. It was easy to make a 5th-grade combat weapon. With his soul that was stuck in the celestial realm, it was only a matter of time. Only the celestial Taoist robe was more troublesome. It required a lot of effort, formation, great path, profound meaning, and a combination of defense and attack. Only then could it be considered a 6th-grade celestial Taoist robe. Time was unknown on the dead star, but 3 years had passed in the outside world. Inside the crazy sect, Gu Qingyu recovered. The aura of a great martial venerable filled the Owlfall star. The supreme solitary sword wave pierced through the clouds. The Buddha heart sword seed Sarira was forcibly refined and added to the divine sword. It became even sharper and entered the 6th grade. At this moment, Gu Qingyu was a sword of solitude, a sword that sought defeat. If he had the celestial Taoist robe, he would not be weaker than Feng Sha. He might even be slightly stronger. After 3 years of hard work, the group of children had all reached the Fate Palace realm. Emperor Yi had surpassed Yi Qinghan and reached the 4th step of the Fate Palace realm. Yi Mingxi, on the other hand, had reached the early stage of the Tao Master realm. She broke free and laughed like a little doll. No one knew how strong she really was, but Si Wuxia knew that she could easily beat him. Si Wuxia had not been systematically trained by Yi Qinghan. If he had been trained, Yi Mingxi would not have crushed him. He had the greatest room for improvement. Gu Qingyu glanced at the group of children in front of him and stared at Tai Hua. A black line appeared on his forehead. Tai Hua, come here. Gu Qingyu frowned. Tai Hua was already 9 years old. He stayed in the inner sect day and night, bitterly cultivating. The spiritual energy here was rich to the extreme. Even a beast without intelligence should have spiritual energy, but Tai Hua still hadn't opened up his Qi. He was definitely the only weirdo in the universe who could be compared to a parrot. Tai Hua was helpless. He came to Gu Qingyu dejectedly and begged, "Uncle, please don't chase me away." "I didn't do it on purpose." Gu Qingyu's divine sense pierced into Tai Hua's psyche ocean and found it empty like a hollow stone. There were no seals or laws sealing him. Tai Hua's chi ocean was like a stone that couldn't be opened no matter how hard he tried. Everyone was curious. Everyone else had entered the Fate Palace realm. Even the youngest, Shaoli, had entered the first step of the Fate Palace realm. Li Jiuchong, a middle-aged man, had also entered the third step of the Fate Palace realm. Why was this little guy unable to grow up and could not even cross a small realm? Whoosh, Gu Qingyu waved his hand and said helplessly, "Go and play. I can't see through you. You're really a rock. Since your master accepted you, it means that it's fate. The crazy sect will not expel you. Master, can I break through to the Tao Master realm?" Lin Wutian stood with his sword in his arms. He was as straight as a spear. 3 years of transformation had made him somewhat terrifying. No matter when he stood there, he looked like a divine sword that held up the sky. He didn't have the slightest aura of a human being. Continue to suppress and build your body. Everything will wait until your uncle comes back. He has a deep understanding of body refining. Maybe he can help you go further. Gu Qingyu refused Lin Wutian's request without hesitation. Roar! A roar shook the sky. The entire Owlfall star trembled. The world was dead silent. Gu Qingyu frowned and flew into the void to stare at the blood prison. He found that Kuei had become more and more irritated in the past 2 years and wanted to break free. It's getting more and more dangerous here. Gu Qingyu stared at the blood prison and then flew back to the crazy sect. He said to everyone, "I'll give you a few cloud-piercing boats. Go and train. Remember, don't be separated. Listen to Li Jiuchong and your senior sister, Emperor Yi. Do you understand?" With Emperor Yi and Yi Mingxi leading the team, no one could kill these juniors in an instant as long as they were not great martial venerables. Gu Qingyu stepped into the void, his clothes fluttering. He was willing to be a protector and protect this group of children. He had become somewhat emotional. Chapter 184. With the Milky Way hanging upside down, the cloud-piercing ship sped all the way to Stand Star. The enormous Stand Star could not be compared to Owl Falling Star. It was even larger than Owl War Star in the past. Charge! Yi Mingxi personally steered a cloud-piercing ship. There were only 5 people on it, Emperor Yi, Jian Qinxue, Stan Wuxia, and Lin Wutian. They were the most terrifying 5 of the younger generation. They could definitely suppress ordinary Tao masters. Boom! A flame was drawn from the void and landed on the dazzling city of the Stand Star. This was a city of the powerful Stan clan. There were countless powerful warriors, and Fate Palace warriors were everywhere. Tao masters were not that rare, they were very common and could even be seen on the streets. Everyone looked up curiously at the cloud-piercing ship hanging in the air. When the cloud-piercing ship opened, everyone was stunned. A group of 8 or 9 years old children, led by 2 beautiful women, stepped into the air. They were all at the Fate Palace realm. The youngest among them was a Tao master. Which big family did these geniuses come from? There are so many of them. Hiss, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air and fixed their gazes on Renhuang Yi and Jian Qinshue's faces. The 2 of them were otherworldly and peerless. They were like snow lotuses, beautiful and flawless. Renhuang Yi, in particular, had his eyes closed the entire time, which made people even more curious. Lin Wutian was standing on the side with his sword in his arms. He was as cold as a sword. He was only 16 years old, but he could be considered as handsome and elegant. His cold and arrogant attitude made him look down on all living things. He had attracted the hostility of many young people. Li Jiuchong was very steady, like an uncle next door. His cultivation was strong but not obvious. It seemed that he was only at the Fate Palace realm. However, every step he took was very cautious. His combat strength was not as good as Yi Qinghan's, but it was far superior to others. Everyone looked around and found that Tai Hua was actually a mortal who could be with this group of geniuses. They were a little confused. Bring out the top 10 experts in your city. Yi Mingxi was extremely arrogant. Obviously, she had been led astray by the parrot. Everyone's expression became somewhat unsightly. This was a bit too arrogant. Little girl, aren't you being too arrogant? You don't even put the top 10 young experts of Daguang City in your eyes. A handsome and powerful young man said coldly. That's right. I don't care about the younger generation of Daguang City. As long as any of the top 10 experts can defeat any of the 5 of us, Daguang City will win, Yi Mingxi said proudly. Too arrogant. Fuck, where did this wild girl come from? How dare you look down on Daguang City? The crowd clamored. Some of the invincible warriors of the Fate Palace realm turned cold and surrounded Yi Mingxi and the others. Ding! The sword light flashed. It was so sharp that it shattered the space. A wisp of sword chi streaked across everyone's necks. They stopped in their tracks and touched their necks. Blood gushed out of their necks. Their faces turned deathly pale. They frantically drew back. They looked at Lin Wutian in horror. They didn't dare to utter a single word. Lin Wutian's sword had only left a simple wound on their necks. It didn't hurt their core. This required a high level of control over the spiritual ether. Any carelessness could cost one's life. It was terrifying for a 15 or 16-year-old boy to use such a sword technique. Are there no experts in Daguang City? Anyone below 30 years old can be counted. Even Dao masters can fight. We'll wait in the square for 2 hours. Don't let us look down on you. Yi Mingxi frowned. The purpose of this training was to fight all the young experts in the world. She didn't want to return empty-handed and waste her time. Yi Mingxi and the others flew to the huge square of Daguang City. This was the training ground. It was protected by a formation that could withstand the attack of a Dao master. The heroes of Daguang City were furious. They glared at Yi Mingxi and the others. They were no longer curious. They were here to provoke Daguang City. In a big city, there would always be unity and bravery among the people. It was impossible for them to kick up a fuss. They were all waiting for the top 10 young experts to appear. The square was dead silent. They waited for half an hour, but the top 10 young experts didn't appear. Everyone's face turned even uglier, especially when they saw the disdain on Yi Mingxi and the others' faces. They were so angry that they wanted to fight it out with them. I'll do it. A vigorous voice resounded through the square. Everyone looked back and saw a burly young man walking toward them. He had an extraordinary aura and an invincible aura. I'm ranked 8th among the young generation in Daguang City. My name is Si Juanhao. We're not interested in knowing your name. Just tell us who you want to challenge. If you can survive 3 moves, you win, Lin Wutian said coldly, holding his sword. 3 moves, everyone's face turned ugly. This was no longer a challenge. It was simply a humiliation and provocation. Arrogant. I'll challenge you. Si Juanhao was furious. With a wave of his hand, a giant axe appeared in his hand. Blue veins popped out all over his body. It seemed that the axe weighed at least 1,000 pounds. Lin Wutian was expressionless. He walked to the center with his sword and looked at Si Juanhao coldly, waiting for him to enter. Ah! Go to hell! Si Juanhao shouted as he slashed at Lin Wutian with his giant axe. Hum! Lin Wutian pulled out his sword and put it away. He turned around and left smoothly. Boom! Si Juanhao's body pounced on Lin Wutian's back from midair. He fell to the ground 5 meters away from Lin Wutian. Before he could finish his sentence, a bloody hole appeared in his throat. His true essence was sealed. Although it wasn't enough to kill him, he wouldn't have a chance to fight for at least half a year. Everyone gasped as they looked at Lin Wutian's thin figure. Their eyes were full of horror. Their Taoist heart was almost shattered by this sword. This is the top 10. Sister, let's go somewhere else. He's too weak. Yi Mingxi looked at Jian Qinxue and Emperor Yi seriously. Although she was telling the truth, she had completely angered the young generation in Deguang City. Arrogant. You don't know what you're talking about. You've underestimated us. Another terrifying aura rushed over and stepped into the martial arts practice field in the blink of an eye. His cultivation was close to the Tao Master realm. Wind God's jade-like face became gloomy as he looked down at the group of little guys. It's Si Juanhao, one of the top 5 experts of the young generation. My friend Si Juanhao, teach this little girl a lesson. Challenge her and see how strong she is. The people in Deguang City didn't understand how terrifying Yi Mingxi was. Except for Emperor Yi, no one was her opponent. It was absolutely courting death for Si Juanhao to challenge her. Yes, I'll challenge you. Don't say that I bullied you. You're too arrogant, Si Juanhao said disdainfully. Si Wuxia shrugged and thought that Si Juanhao was simply stupid and courting death. Even he, the emperor of the Si clan, didn't dare to provoke Yi Mingxi, but he dared to take the initiative to provoke her. Everyone looked at each other, and even Lin Wutian showed a mocking smile. Yi Mingxi's strength was well known. Except for Emperor Yi, no one in the young generation could suppress her. Really? I'm a powerful Tao master, Yi Mingxi reminded him kindly. It's not like I haven't killed a Tao master before. If you don't admit your mistake, I don't mind killing you. Si Juanhao said arrogantly. I'm so scared. Yi Mingxi looked weak and pitiful. She looked innocently at Emperor Yi and said, Sister, if I die, you must help me collect my corpse. Don't make trouble. Let's end this quickly. This small place is too boring. Our next stop is to challenge the disciples of the big families, Emperor Yi said calmly. Yi Mingxi stuck out her tongue and stepped into the center of the martial arts practice field. She waved her small fist and said, I'm going to attack. Be careful. Cut the crap. Come on. Si Juanhao drew his sword. The surrounding sword qi was fierce and wrapped around his body. The sword pierced through the sky and stabbed directly at Yi Mingxi. Whoosh, Yi Mingxi performed the extreme divine dragon steps and moved as fast as lightning. The entire martial arts practice field was filled with her figure. Extreme space-piercing style. Yi Mingxi flicked her 5 fingers and a wisp of qi hit the back of Si Juanhao's head like a divine weapon. Si Juanhao fell to the ground with a bang. His teeth were all broken and he was knocked unconscious. Yi Mingxi clapped her small hands and shrugged her shoulders. She returned to Emperor Ye's side. The 8th and 5th contestants were defeated in one move. The faces of the people in Deguang City changed. They felt humiliated. I didn't know when such a group of geniuses appeared in Xiaolong region. But they're too young and ignorant. Do you think you can defeat everyone in Xiaolong region? Today, I'll make you stop your ridiculous behavior. A young man with a strong aura came from afar. He didn't look very old, but he had the strength of the completion of Step 4 of the Fate Palace realm. He was only half a step away from becoming a Tao master. You talk too much. Other than Tai Hua, you can pick anyone you want. We'll talk after you win, Yi Mingxi said nonchalantly. I'm ranked first on the elite ranking of the younger generation in Deguang City. Si Wusheng, if you win against me, you'll win against the younger generation in Deguang City. Choose one of you. The young expert entered the arena quickly and looked at the crowd coldly. I'll do it. The 9-year-old Si Wuxia's eyes were like torches. His terrifying bloodline aura burst out involuntarily, suppressing everyone's qi and blood. As soon as he entered the arena, the aura of the experts within 1,000 meters stagnated and their faces turned pale. Si Wuxia's golden bloodline was the supreme emperor of the Si clan. It had the ability to suppress other people's bloodline, let alone the experts of the Si clan. Si Wuxiang's face changed drastically. He felt his blood was about to freeze. His mind was restless and his legs were weak. He wanted to surrender. Si Wuxia's aura burst out. His golden bloodline was awakened and emitted a golden light. His aura was getting stronger and stronger. His young face became extremely majestic. "Make your move," Si Wuxia said coldly. The entire arena fell into a dead silence. Si Wuxiang's legs were trembling and his ethereal force was restrained. He didn't even dare to think of making an enemy, let alone making a move. Boom! Si Wuxiang knelt down under the pressure of the aura. The top expert of the younger generation didn't even have the courage to make a move. He surrendered immediately. "This is boring. Let's go to another planet. Those from the main bloodline are old friends. I'm not interested in beating them," Si Wuxia said, curling his lips. "Alright, let's go to the main territory of the Shao Long Dragon. I heard that there are many young experts gathered there." Yi Mengshi was very excited. She summoned the cloud-piercing ship and took them to the sky. Chapter 185. Xiaolong main region was not far from Xiaolong Saint Mountain. It was a vast continent. The space here was stable enough to be compared with the Death Star. The top 30 warriors of Xiaolong region were gathered together, preparing for the great competition between the young generation of Xiaolong region. Shi Gu was there, as was Feng Wuxia. However, they weren't sitting in the upper seats. Instead, there were 7 powerful warriors sitting in the upper seats. Their invincible battle postures were enough to suppress everyone. There was a pair of twins. The man was handsome and the woman was beautiful. They were only 20 years old, but they were sitting in the upper seats. They were Nangong Yuanhong's grandson and granddaughter, Nangong Xiaobei and Nangong Qingyue. Their cultivation had reached the peak of Dao Master Realm. They were the top 5 experts of the younger generation. The Supreme Battle King competition is about to begin. This time, my grandfather will personally host the competition to select the last disciple. He will lead Xiaolong region into the endless universe. Everyone, get ready. Nangong Qingyue had a sweet appearance. She was tall and slender. She was plump yet delicate. She was definitely one of the most beautiful women in Xiaolong region. Her voice was like the sound of nature, attracting the admiration of countless experts. Unfortunately, no one dared to express their love for her. Fairy Qingyue, I wonder if the previous generation Supreme Battle King will appear. If they do, it will be none of our business. A young expert asked in a muffled voice. Don't worry about this. Even if they appear, they won't participate in the competition. They will be summoned by my grandfather. If my grandfather likes them, they might become his last disciple. Nangong Qingyue smiled faintly and explained in detail. Nangong Xiaobei and Nangong Qingyue looked very similar. They were both beautiful and handsome. At this moment, his face was cold and he did not want to say a word. Shi Gu and Feng Wuxia were furious. They did not like each other and looked like they were about to fight. These people's cultivation seemed to be about the same. Only a few of them looked respectable. They were sitting beside Nangong Qingyue and Nangong Xiaobei. Among them, there were 2 whose auras were extremely sharp and terrifying. They were Xiahou Chen and Zhu Zifeng, who were ranked 2nd and 5th in the younger generation. Xiahou Chen was from the Xiahou family and had a blood feud with Yi Qinghan. Zhu Zifeng was a lay disciple of the Great Golden Buddha Temple. He was definitely a rare genius to be able to reach the top 5. Brother Xiahou, Brother Zhu, Brother Tianchen, will not be participating in this year's competition. You have a chance to win the championship. Congratulations. Nangong Qingyue pursed her lips and smiled. When her brother Tianchen was mentioned, her face was brimming with happiness, causing others to be extremely jealous. Thank you, Fairy Qingyue, for your auspicious words, and thank fellow Taoist Tian Chen for going easy on me. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to become the supreme battle monarch. Xiahou Chen said modestly, but his face was full of pride. Among the younger generation of Xiaolong region, he didn't put anyone in his eyes except for Mu Yu Tianchen. Even if it was Nangong Qingyue and Nangong Xiaobei, what he respected was their status, not their strength. Arrogant and despotic. Do you think you're the heavenly king? I'll cripple you with a brick. Shirgu said with disdain and coldly said, having a high realm doesn't mean you're strong. If I wasn't young back then, you wouldn't have been ranked second. Shirgu was extremely unhappy. He was already unhappy with the ranking back then. He was only 13 years old back then, but he was able to enter the top 50 with his strength. Now, with the addition of the brick, he definitely had a chance to flatten Xiahou Chen's face. Feng Wuxia was also unhappy with the title. He was 1 year older than Shirgu, and he also entered the top 15. After years of accumulating fame, he gradually rose to the top 10, but he didn't fully display his strength. Now, it was fairer to talk with one's fist, but he didn't open his mouth yet. Xiahou Chen, I really can't tell if your brain is damaged or if you're too confident. Supreme Battle Monarch. If Yi Lingyu comes back and combines the zither and the flute, can you withstand it? Moreover, even if he doesn't come back, do you still put us in your eyes? Feng Wuxia couldn't hold back when it came to the glory of the Supreme Battle Monarch. Two ignorant brats, you fight each other like idiots all day long. You still want to touch the Supreme Battle Monarch? I can crush you with one hand. Xiahou Chen scolded with disdain. Boom! The table was smashed by Shirgu. He pointed the brick at Xiahou Chen and shouted coldly, don't think you're so great just because you've been eating for a few years. Others might be afraid of you, but I'm not. If you have the guts, come and fight me. If you lose, call me master and I'll let you go. If you call him master, you should call me uncle. I'm at least his cousin. Feng Wuxia said sarcastically. You two are courting death. Xiahou Chen had never been humiliated like this before. He immediately stood up, his killing intent soaring to the sky. Everyone stop. If you want to fight, there's plenty of time. The Supreme Battle Monarch competition will start in 2 or 3 months. Why are you so impatient? Can't you act like a battle monarch? Nangong Xiaobei raised his eyebrows and a ray of sword light shot out from his sword-like eyebrows. Everyone's breathing stagnated and they all fell silent. Boom! Boom! 3 cloud-piercing bolts shot through the clouds like shooting stars, smashing towards the main region. Their auras were extremely powerful, and they didn't know how to dodge at all. The experts in the void above frantically fled to the sides. As the cloud-piercing boats passed by them, they were instantly enraged and cursed at the boats. Playboy! The cloud-piercing boat's aura alarmed the group of battle monarchs. Nangong Xiaobei couldn't help but frown as his aura grew colder and colder. The main region was a forbidden area for playboys. Aside from Shirgu, no one else had dared to use the cloud-piercing boats like this. Xiahou Chen and the others all frowned. They were in a bad mood and wanted to find someone to vent. Quick, look over there. An expert from many years ago is charging over. Si Wuxia said tyrannically. Yimengshi was like a newborn calf that wasn't afraid of a tiger. She really drove the cloud-piercing boat over. Flames filled the sky as her aura soared to the stars. Fuck. Who the fuck is this? Motherfucker, are you courting death? The battle monarchs didn't dare to clash with the cloud-piercing boats like this. They all fled to the sides. The surrounding tables were all sent flying, and the battle monarchs were all in a sorry state. Kakik, everyone was so angry that they clenched their fists tightly. They wanted to smash the cloud-piercing boats into smithereens. They all stared at the cloud-piercing boats angrily. Wow, so many battle monarchs. Yi Mingxi was the first to jump off the cloud-piercing boats. She looked at everyone innocently as she waved her small hands and said, "Hey, big brothers and big sisters, how are you?" Nangong Xiaobei and the others were so angry that they almost vomited blood. They originally wanted to properly greet the hedonistic young master on the cloud-piercing ship, but they didn't expect that a little girl around 10 years old would come down and innocently greet them. Wow, what a cute little sister. Nangong Qingyue didn't get angry. Instead, she took the initiative to hug Yi Mingxi. Hee, big sister is even cuter. Yi Mingxi didn't stand on ceremony and hugged her as if she was an old friend. Everyone, after that, Emperor Yi, Jian Qinxue, and a few others got off the cloud-piercing boats together. They all looked like teenagers, and there was even a 5- or 6-year-old mortal. Were these really playboys? Everyone's anger couldn't be vented, and their faces turned red. Emperor Yi was supported by Jian Qinxue. His eyes were closed, and his aura was extraordinary. He was already 16 years old, and he looked like a fairy that walked out of a fairyland. Even if he didn't open his eyes, he could shake everyone's heart. Once he opened his eyes, "Which faction are you from?" "There are many people in the Owl-Dragon main region. You can't drive the cloud-piercing boats like this. It's easy to injure people." Nangong Qingyue pulled Yi Mingxi like a big sister and said with heartache. "We are from the insane sect of the Owl-Falling Planet. It is the strongest faction on our planet. We came here to challenge the experts of the main region." Yi Mingxi said seriously. Pucci, many battle monarchs laughed. This was pure mockery. What kind of planet was the Owl-Falling Planet? If it wasn't for the Kuei Cow incident, who would pay attention to that trash planet? The strongest sect was only grade 4, and they actually dared to challenge the experts of the main region. What a joke. Owl-Falling Planet? Insane sect? Shigu and Feng Wuxia were shocked. Wasn't that Yi Qinghan's planet? What about the Owl-Falling Planet? How could so many young juniors appear in such a short time? Their combat strength was indeed not bad. What are you laughing at? Suppress your cultivation to the 4th step of the Fate Palace realm and I'll defeat you all. Si Wuxia said coldly. His young face, domineering, arrogant, and domineering tone made everyone's mouth twitch, and a trace of displeasure flashed in their eyes. However, as kings, it was too shameful for them to argue with a 10-year-old child. However, his tone was indeed arrogant. If his age was similar, this group of people would have already started fighting. Are you looking down on us? This time, we are indeed here to challenge you battle monarchs. Let's see if you live up to your name or are just here to make up the numbers. Emperor Ye's face was extremely calm. His tone was arrogant and unruly. Compared to when he was weak, he was more domineering. Haha, you look like you are only 15 or 16 years old. Why do you keep your eyes closed and let others support you? A powerful battle monarch looked down at Emperor Yi with greed and lust in his eyes and mocked him disdainfully. Good girl, but your tone is a little unkind. So many of you have been through hundreds of battles and hardships to be battle monarchs. Their combat strength is obvious to all. If you really want to challenge us, you can fight your way up one by one according to the ranking. Whichever position you reach, you will be a battle monarch and have the opportunity to participate in the Supreme Battle Monarch competition, Nangong Qingyue said with a smile. That's right, little girl. If you want to fight, I can suppress my cultivation to the 2nd step of the Fate Palace realm. As long as you can win, I will take you as my servant. It will be much better than your so-called insane sect on the Owl-Falling Planet. Wang Chen was a battle monarch ranked 25th on the battle monarchs list. The greed in his eyes was self-evident. Obviously, he saw Emperor Yi as a soft girl who could be easily pushed down. You are just a beginner Dao master. Even if you fight with all your strength, I can kill you even without senior sister's help. Lin Wuqian saw that Wang Chen dared to blaspheme Emperor Yi. A murderous intent flashed in his eyes. His big hand grasped the hilt of his sword. His voice was like a thunderclap exploding, shocking everyone and making them look at each other. They had seen arrogant people, but they had never seen such an arrogant person. The insane sect was indeed worthy of its name. Chapter 186. Lin Wuqian's arrogance made everyone's expression change, but his arrogance was well-founded. If Gu Qingyu hadn't deliberately suppressed his realm, he would have broken through to the realm of Tao Master long ago. With the innate unity of man and sword, his combat power was unparalleled. It was the first time Wang Chen had been so arrogant and humiliated by a young man who hadn't even been crowned king. His face turned green. If Xiahou Chen and the others had insulted him like this, he might have tolerated it, but Lin Wuqian was just a nobody. How could he tolerate it? Ha ha ha, you're courting death. I'll grant your wish. Wang Chen was furious. He suddenly stepped into the void and pointed at Lin Wuqian. He was so angry that his invincible battle posture was revealed. He said coldly, "Boy, come on up. I'll grant you death." Nangong Qingyue and the others frowned slightly. This was an unfair battle. Yi Mingxi hurriedly stopped her and shook her head. "Don't stop him. We came out to challenge those of a higher realm and seek opportunities to break through. Don't worry, we're confident." Lin Wuqian turned into a sharp sword and rushed into the sky like a rainbow piercing through the galaxy. Hum! He pulled out his sword and sword chi filled the sky. Everyone's expression changed. Was this really a young man at the pinnacle of the Fate Palace realm? Let's go and see. Nangong Qingyue was curious. These arrogant sects were not only arrogant, but also terrifying in combat power. Swoosh! A group of strong cultivators rushed into the void and stared at Lin Wuqian and Wang Chen. Emperor Yi called out his divine guqin and held it in his arms. Divine light flowed like a god, ready to deal with any unexpected situation. He had to be careful when facing these king-rank strong cultivators. Lin Wuqian and Wang Chen faced each other from 100 meters away. This distance was nothing. They could kill each other in the blink of an eye. It's not too late to kneel now. Otherwise, you'll say that I'm bullying the weak. Wang Chen frowned. If he killed Lin Wuqian with his peak combat power, his reputation would be tarnished regardless of the outcome. He could only release his aura to suppress Lin Wuqian, hoping to defeat him without a fight. So much nonsense. Could it be that you rely on nonsense to defeat experts of the same level and become the king of nonsense? Lin Wuqian sneered. His lone sword Dao appeared and turned into a sharp sword, shattering the heavens and space, and went straight for Wang Chen. Wang Chen was so angry that his entire body trembled. He roared, "You don't know the difference between life and death. I'll help you." Whoosh! The aura of invincible kings was overwhelming. Being able to be ranked in the top 25, his combat ability was definitely not weak. Wang Chen turned into a divine sword, and his sword chi was extremely sharp. He directly attacked Lin Wuqian. A true powerhouse could tell at a glance that Lin Wuqian's sword chi was condensed and didn't disperse. It was just a sword light. Wang Chen's sword chi was scattered. Although it seemed powerful and had a wide range, its power would be greatly reduced if the sword chi dispersed. Boom! Wang Chen wanted to kill Lin Wuqian from all directions, but he was wrong. He was very wrong. If he had concentrated all of his strength to fight Lin Wuqian head-on, he might have been able to kill Lin Wuqian. However, he had underestimated his enemy. In the end, not only had he failed to kill Lin Wuqian, but his defense had also been shattered by Lin Wuqian's invincible sword power. Die! Lin Wuqian shouted. Like a sharp sword, he crashed into Wang Chen's sea of consciousness. Man and sword became one, breaking Wang Chen's defense and going straight for his body. Wang Chen was shocked. Looking at the sword light flashing by, his eyes were full of horror. He raised his sword again to attack Lin Wuqian, but it was too hasty. He hadn't gathered half of his sword qi, and his Jin Yuan was only half mobilized before he was hit by Lin Wuqian. Boom! The two collided, and the sword qi collapsed. Wang Chen's body was blown back like a kite with a broken string. Cut! Lin Wuqian was bathed in blood. His eyes were full of killing intent. His sword pierced through the void and went straight for Wang Chen's throat. The sword qi contained in this sword was enough to kill the opponent. Stop! Xiahou Chen's face changed. Wang Chen was his little brother. How could he allow a junior to kill him? He immediately waved his big hand towards Lin Wuqian. Although he didn't use all of his strength, it was enough to severely injure Lin Wuqian. No one had thought that an invincible existence like Xiahou Chen would suddenly attack a junior. Shi Ge was furious. Shameless bastard. You want to attack a kid together? Die, you bastard. Boom. A golden brick grew bigger and bigger, smashing towards Xiahou Chen's big hand. However, Xiahou Chen's speed was too fast. He was so fast that it caught everyone off guard. Seeing that he was about to attack Lin Wuqian, Shi Ge was furious. He directly used the brick to attack Xiahou Chen. The surrounding Dao patterns intertwined, including all the emperors. Buzz! A terrifying sound of a guqin pierced through the void. A murderous aura filled the air, as if it came from hell. It turned into a huge evil spirit and swallowed Xiahou Chen's attack in an instant, shaking the world. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air and looked at Emperor Yi. This is a fair battle. Don't blame me for being rude to anyone who interferes. Emperor Ye's eyes were still closed, but his voice was cold. Shi Ge was stunned. He took back the brick and sneered, full of sarcasm. He said disdainfully, Xiahou Chen, you don't seem to have any skills other than sneak attacks. Even a kid can block your sneak attack. You call yourself the second strongest of the younger generation. Are you kidding me? Shameless scum. You're embarrassing me. Xiahou Chen's eyes were as sharp as swords. He glanced at Shi Ge coldly. However, he didn't put Shi Ge in his eyes. Instead, he stared at Emperor Yi with an even stronger murderous aura. Whoosh! Lin Wuqian caught Wang Chen off guard. His sword pierced through the sky and pierced through Wang Chen's shoulder. Ah! Wang Chen screamed. His blood stained the void. The vitality in his body was suppressed by a cold aura. He couldn't fight back anymore. However, Lin Wuqian didn't want to let him go. He moved and slashed at Wang Chen. Kid! I told you to stop. Wang Chen has already lost. If you dare to kill me, I'll kill you. Xiahou Chen scolded coldly. Buzz! Emperor Ye's finger trembled slightly, and the sound of the guqin reverberated. His murderous aura filled the main area. He took a step forward and stood in front of Xiahou Chen. He said indifferently, I've already said that this is a fair battle. No one should even think about interfering. Lin Wuqian will only stop if his opponent begs for mercy. If you dare to interfere again, you will have to face my wrath. Renhuang Ye's clothes fluttered in the wind, and his black hair fluttered in the wind. His transcendent face was devoid of emotion, and the aura of an invincible ruler permeated the air, intimidating everyone. At this moment, many people seemed to have sensed that Renhuang Yi would either not open his eyes, or if he did, the heavens would collapse and the earth would rend, suppressing everything. Arrogant. I'd like to see what your thunderous fury looks like. Xiahou Chen was furious. He had been challenged again and again today, and his heart was already burning with rage. Shi Ji's figure flashed and appeared beside Emperor Yi. He shouted coldly, Humph, I also want to see if your Supreme Battle King strength is just a bluff. Feng Wuxia also stood out and said coldly, "This is supposed to be a fair fight. I really don't understand how you can stop it. You even attacked a child." "Everyone, calm down. Brother Xiahou, please conduct yourself with dignity." Nangong Qingyue's aura turned cold. Xiahou Chen's performance was too low. No matter what, attacking Lin Wutian was taboo. Kill. Whoosh. Lin Wutian showed no mercy. His sword cut through the void and slashed Wang Chen's miserable body. The blood sword clashed and the corpse was split into two. Some people were furious, some were shocked, and some were indifferent. They were ready to watch a good show. "Yeah, we've won." Yi Mingxi didn't care about the tense atmosphere at all. Instead, she looked at Nangong Qingyue and the others and said, "Since we didn't agree on the rules at the beginning and attracted a sneak attack from some shameless people, then let's have a fight. We'll be on the insane sect's side and you'll be on the Emperor's side. You'll suppress your cultivation to the great circle of the Fate Palace realm. This sister will be the judge. If we lose, I'll give each of you a high-grade spirit crystal. What do you think?" A 5th-grade spirit treasure was worth at least a few thousand high-grade spirit crystals. Such a bet was too unfair. Nangong Qingyue's mouth twitched. She looked at Yi Mingxi and thought, is this little girl pretending to be stupid? There's no loss in doing business like this. Seeing this person mocking her, Yi Mingxi scratched her head and asked curiously, "What's wrong? You don't dare. You're so much older than us. If you don't have the confidence, how can you be a king?" Everyone was so angry that they almost vomited blood. No matter how confident they were, the bet couldn't be calculated like this. Let's make the bet fair. The loser will give the winner 10,000 high-grade spirit crystals. Xiahou Chen's eyes flashed with killing intent as he said coldly, "I don't have that much. If you want to bet with me, you have to see what I have, not what you want," Yi Mingxi said seriously. Pfft, Nangong Qingyue laughed. She couldn't help it. This Yi Mingxi was too funny. She took advantage of others as if it was right. "How much do you have?" Nangong Xiaobei asked curiously. "I have." Yi Mingxi counted her fingers and hesitated for a moment before looking up and replying, "I have 50 spirit crystals. That's not a small amount. I'll add another 100 high-grade spirit crystals. I'll join the insane sect." Shi Gu said coldly. "I'll add 101 spirit crystals to join in the fun and contribute to the insane sect," Feng Wuxia said proudly. He deliberately added 1 spirit crystal more than Shi Gu. Yi Mingxi looked at Shi Gu and Feng Wuxia curiously. She didn't understand why they would help her. 10,000 spirit crystals versus 251 spirit crystals. The difference was too big. However, Yi Mingxi pointed at Xiahou Chen and provoked, "We have 251 spirit crystals on our side. You're so much older than us. Even if you suppress your cultivation, you're still higher than us. If you still don't dare to fight with us, it'll be too embarrassing. Let me ask you now. You were the most arrogant just now. Do you dare to fight?" Xiahou Chen was so angry that his whole body trembled. He clenched his iron fist and glared at Yi Mingxi. He found that this little girl wasn't innocent at all. She was simply sharp-tongued. "Don't be angry. As a king, you have to be magnanimous," Yi Mingxi said seriously. Chapter 187. In the air, Nangong Xiaobei and the others all looked at Xiahou Chen. Yi Mingxi had made it clear that she was challenging him to form a team and fight against the insane sect. There were a total of 10 people on the Kuang sect's side. In addition, there was a mortal, Tai Hua, who was being carried on someone's shoulder. Now that Shi Gu and Feng Wuxia had joined them, their target was obviously Xiahou Chen. There were a total of 12 people on the Kuang sect's side. Xiahou Chen only needed to form a group of 12 to fight. Xia Haochun's face was ferocious. Even if Yi Mingxi didn't place a bet, he had to accept it. Otherwise, he would lose all his face and participate in the Supreme Battle King tournament. Kakik, clenching his fists, Xia Haochun looked coldly at the emperors and said in a low voice, "They've already challenged us. Are you going to sit by and do nothing?" The emperors were silent for a moment. Xia Haochun still had power and influence. He had many friends. It was easy for him to form a team of 12. "Brother Xia Haochun, I'll help you. I'll also offer 1,800 upper-grade spiritual crystals as a bet." A super genius from the Zhang family walked out and looked coldly at the insane sex people. "Me too. A bunch of ungrateful brats. Today, I'll teach you all a lesson on behalf of your father. You really don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Count me in. I'll offer 500 upper-grade spiritual crystals." In a short while, all 11 of them were present. Including Xia Haochun, it was 12 against 12. Almost everyone offered 700 to 800 spirit crystals. The least was 500. The rest was all paid by Xia Haochun. They gathered 10,000 upper-grade spirit crystals and handed them all to Nangong Qingyue. The atmosphere became solemn. More and more experts gathered. They all wanted to see the results of this team competition. Emperor Yi and the others also gathered to discuss countermeasures. "I'll fight this Xia Haochun. You guys can do whatever you want with the others," Emperor Yi said. Shi Gu and Feng Wuxia were stunned. They didn't expect Emperor Yi to be so strong. He directly targeted a terrifying existence like Xia Haochun. "Little girl, this guy is very strong. Even we might not be able to win against him. You should find another opponent," Feng Wuxia kindly reminded. However, Emperor Yi shook his head and said indifferently, "After he suppresses his cultivation level, if you fight him, you will definitely have to suppress your cultivation level as well. That will be disadvantageous to you. It will be impossible for you to win, and it will be very dangerous." Emperor Ye's meaning was very simple. He was worried that they would be killed by Xia Haochun. The implication was even more terrifying. Xia Haochun was only a so-so. He might be able to deal with others, but against her, he was simply courting death. Shi Gu and Feng Wuxia frowned. They were not happy to let a little girl fight the strongest Xia Haochun while they hid behind to deal with the others. However, the people of the Quang clan seemed to have blind faith in Emperor Yi and wanted to see how strong Emperor Yi really was, so they stopped arguing. "Zhu Zifeng, let me do it. I want to see if his dharma is stronger or if my brick is harder." Shi Gu was extremely cold. He couldn't wait to rush up and take down Zhu Zifeng, who was in the top 5. "Yu Qin, who is ranked 6th, let me do it." Feng Wuxia quickly chose his opponent. Lin Wuqian returned to the group with a cold gaze. He didn't choose his opponent. After the others had chosen, the last one would be his. Si Wuxia's blood was boiling. His gaze was like the sun, making his aura oppressive. Behind Li Jiuchong was a very skinny young man who was about 13 or 14 years old. He was looking at the group furtively. His gaze locked onto the weakest emperor and he grinned coldly as if he was looking at prey. He was called Huang Xiaohu. He was born with godly strength. Standing on the ground, he could move mountains. 3 years ago, he relied on his strength to join the Quang clan. Later, he suddenly comprehended the profound meaning of the law of gravity and reached the small success stage. He was even more terrifying than Yi Qinghan. Perhaps this was his talent, but he also had another identity. He was the younger brother of the 5th-rank auctioneer, Huang Xiaomeng. Everyone was in the air and defenseless. If he suddenly used the law of gravity to launch a sneak attack, this group of people would be unlucky and could fall to their deaths. Tai Hua and Shao Li sat on the 2 sides of Li Jiuchong's shoulders. Their eyes were clear and some light flashed in them. They seemed very excited. "You guys send out your people. We'll challenge them. Yi Mengshi was a little excited. To her, winning or losing was no longer important. 10,000 high-grade spirit crystals were the most important. These 10,000 spirit crystals were probably the savings of these emperors. After all, high-grade spirit crystals were very rare. I'll do it. The weakest young man had a powerful aura. He was a qi refiner called Yang Qiong. Now that his cultivation was low, it would be difficult for him to achieve a high result in the king naming competition. As a qi refiner's cultivation increased, they would have an advantage against body refiners. At the immortal realm, qi refiners could sweep through body refiners. Let me do this. Huang Xiaohu excitedly rushed out from the back door. The gravity in the main region was extremely strong. Even invincible emperors like them would find it hard to fly quickly. To him, this was the best battlefield. You don't know what's good for you. Yang Qiong sneered. To him, killing Huang Xiaohu was just a matter of thought. Okay, the rules will be simple. We'll fight until one side concedes. If one side concedes, the other side must immediately stop attacking. If they don't, they can attack as they wish. Nangong Qingyue was very excited. It was as if it was her first time being a judge. Let's begin. Nangong Xiaobei said indifferently. Yang Qiong's lips curled up. He gathered qi into a blade and a divine sword appeared in his hand. He roared, chop. Shua. The sword light was sharp and pierced through the air, heading straight for Huang Xiaohu. Humph. Huang Xiaohu's veins popped out. His divine power overflowed into the sky as he waved his iron fist at the true Yuan blade. With a single step, he was dozens of meters away from Yang Qiong. Boom! The Zhen Yuan blades and the iron fist qi collided, creating a deafening sound. Huang Xiaohu took a step back as his soul power increased. He glared at Yang Qiong and growled, "Gravity law, descend." The pressure between heaven and earth suddenly increased, as if the sky was about to collapse. Everyone's aura stagnated and they couldn't stabilize their bodies. They were frightened and used the momentum to escape back to the ground. Even Nangong Qingyue and Nangong Xiaobei's expressions changed. They felt as if their bodies were filled with lead. In the center of the battlefield, Yang Qiong's complexion changed. He poured out his true essence in an attempt to stabilize his body, but the gravity suddenly increased by 1,000 times. The tearing force from the ground nearly tore his body apart. He immediately gave up all resistance and fell to the ground. Ah! Yang Qiong fell faster and faster. The closer he got to the ground, the stronger the gravity and the stronger the tearing force. Yang Qiong couldn't resist at all. He grabbed the sky with both hands, trying to find the last straw to save his life. 1,000 times gravity. Descend. Huang Xiaohu followed closely behind Yang Qiong's body. He controlled the gravity and pressed down on Yang Qiong. Yang Qiong's body was torn out of shape. He had difficulty breathing and his eyeballs almost popped out. How could he still have the chance to admit defeat? Xiahou Chen and the others' expressions changed. A teenager knew the gravity law. It was simply unbelievable. Die for me. When they were still several hundred meters from the ground, Huang Xiaohu punched at Yang Qiong's body. Shoo! The sound of the air being torn apart was endless. Yang Qiong's eyes were full of fear. He couldn't resist the gravity, let alone block Huang Xiaohu's attack. He could only watch as his opponent punched at him. The air was burning due to the friction. Boom! Yang Qiong's body was directly punched through by the powerful Huang Xiaohu. His body slammed into the ground and was torn apart. He died on the spot. Even his bones were crushed by the gravity. Everyone gasped and was secretly shocked. A kid like this knew the gravity law. Those who didn't have a strong body would be courting death if they got close to him. No one would be wary of the law of gravity. Generally, the law of principle and the profound meaning of the elements were the cultivation methods of the celestial sects. A few grand martial venerables could also cultivate the law of gravity. However, no one had ever thought that the law of gravity would appear in the life palace realm. Yang Qiong died with his eyes wide open. Not even his bones were left. As soon as he landed, Huang Xiaohu's aura became overwhelming. It felt like he could kill a Tao master with one punch. The insane sect wins the first battle. Nangong Qingyue landed on the ground. Although she was shocked, she quickly announced the result. Xiahou Chen looked terrible. He didn't expect to lose so badly in the first round. He couldn't lose the second round or he would become a laughing stock. "Brother Zhu, you want to fight?" Xiahou Chen asked tentatively. "Okay. I'll fight." Zhu Zifeng smiled. How could someone who could enter the top 5 of the younger generation care about this group of little guys? When Shirgu saw this, he immediately summoned the golden brick. The great path law descended and his aura was monstrous. The brick's aura was too strong. Although it was sealed in the 6th grade, everyone knew that it was a weapon made by a god martial venerables. Once it revealed its true combat strength, it could break a 6th grade god weapon with one blow. Zhu Zifeng looked terrible. He looked coldly at Shirgu and said angrily, "You want to use a weapon to suppress me?" A weapon is also a reflection of combat strength. If you have the ability, use an emperor weapon. I'll admit defeat immediately. Shirgu sneered. The younger generation competed with each other in terms of combat strength and background. Who in the ancient aristocratic families didn't have such a background? Only Xiao Zhanxing, a 5th grade Yi Qinghan, lacked such a background. Yi Qinghan used a 5th grade weapon himself. It was impossible for his family to have a 6th grade weapon. Otherwise, he wouldn't have lost so badly. Humph, arrogant. Do you really think I don't have a background? Zhu Zifeng waved his hand and a sarira that shone with Buddhist light appeared in his hand. Its aura was boundless, intimidating all the Daos in the world. Without a background, who would dare to fight for the Supreme Battle King? Unless it was someone with extraordinary combat strength like Yi Qinghan and Gu Qingyu. Then let's see if your sarira or my brick is stronger. Shirgu shouted in disdain. With the brick in hand, who can fight against me? Suppress. The golden brick rushed into the air and spun continuously. The surrounding great path patterns intertwined and divine light filled the air. It covered the sky and suppressed Zhu Zifeng. Boom, 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 buzz, 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 the sarira and the golden brick exploded at the same time. One was majestic while the other was boundless. They suppressed each other and suppressed each other. Everyone was forced to retreat. Chapter 188. On the dead star, the gravity had reached an extreme. Countless stars gathered and its density had broken the record of countless stars. Outside the canyon, it would be difficult for immortal realm experts to survive if they did not understand the law of gravity. Thousands of divine dipper trees emitted a golden glow and pushed aside the gravity. The Iron Mountain became even more majestic and towering, protecting the last chance of survival. However, the gravity in the forest of divine dipper trees was beyond the range of ordinary cultivators. Even if Yi Qinghan and Yi Lingyu had comprehended part of the law of gravity, it was still very difficult for them to protect the other two. Yi Qinghan did not sleep or rest. He was fully focused on comprehending the law of gravity. According to the rate of increase of the pressure on the dead star, it would take at most half a year for them to be crushed into dust and become one with the earth. The divine dipper trees could not hold on for much longer. Some of the smaller divine dipper trees had already been crushed. When all the divine dipper trees were crushed, Yi Qinghan and Yi Lingyu would have no chance at all. On this day, Yi Qinghan suddenly stood up. His aura became deeper and deeper. With a wave of his hand, he could mobilize part of the law of gravity, reducing the pressure around him. Minor success in the law of gravity. I can add the law of gravity to the immortal robe. Perhaps it can help us escape from this land of death. Yi Qinghan's voice was hoarse and he was exhausted. In the past few days, Yi Qinghan had forged dozens of Divine Dipper gloves, dozens of 5th-grade mystical weapons, and many 6th-grade mystical weapons. His physical body was unparalleled. Naturally, he had entered the 3rd step of the Fate Palace realm. Now, his mastery of the law of gravity had also reached minor success. He finally had the confidence to forge a 6th-grade immortal robe. The parrot gave the last 5th-grade elixir to Yi Qinghan. It was extremely painful. It had not tasted any of the 5th-grade elixirs that it had worked so hard to obtain. It had given them all to Yi Qinghan. In order to quickly recover his strength, Yi Qinghan swallowed the elixir without hesitation. He rushed to the peak of the 3rd step and could enter the 4th step at any time. Perhaps he could break through when he was forging the immortal robe. Yi Qinghan took away a large amount of heavenly dipper divine wood and walked out of the canyon. The gravity of the outside world made it difficult for him to move. In the end, he used berserk mode to open up a path. Step by step, the law of gravity circulated around him, making it much easier for him. However, it was not realistic for him to fly. He could only rely on the immortal sect Taoist robes. If the immortal sect Taoist robes supported the law of gravity, they would not be able to escape alive. The gravity increased. Before the meteorites could reach the ground, they were burned by the friction. Yi Qinghan was no longer worried about being crushed to death by meteorites. He placed the smelting divine furnace above a deep pit. The earth fire could burn the sky. It quickly turned the smelting divine furnace red. A large number of meteorites were smelted. The divine dipper trees were also put in. In less than half an hour, it was smelted and boiled. Divinity rushed to the sky. Thunder and lightning intertwined. Flames rushed out of the smelting divine furnace. The first batch of liquid rushed out of the smelting divine furnace. It was enveloped by Yi Qinghan's will and changed shape. It evolved into the immortal robe according to his will. A pair of crystal clear wings was added. Not only was it strengthened with the law of gravity, but it was also strengthened with the dark and water elemental profound. Divine Martial Imperial Code, out. Yi Qinghan pressed his fingertips on his sea of consciousness. He was ready to use the Divine Martial Imperial Code to strengthen it with more law profound. The Big Dipper Array, Yin-Yang Array, and 8 Trigrams Array were all embedded in the immortal robe. It allowed its defense to reach an extreme. It could at least block a large portion of the power of an immortal sect expert. The Divine Martial Imperial Code shone with divine light. Qi rushed to the Milky Way. The surrounding pressure was instantly reduced. Nothing could restrain it. It continuously flipped pages. Every page would inject a law into the immortal robe. The 3 supreme treasures glowed. The laws intertwined and became extremely powerful. Gravity Chapter. The law of gravity profound was injected into the immortal robe. It spun continuously, allowing it to control the law of gravity and break free from the shackles of the dead stars. Go. Yi Qinghan pointed his finger and shot a drop of blood into the 3 supreme treasures, making them even more dazzling, as if they had their own will and soul. They swayed with the wind and danced gracefully, looking awe-inspiring. The Divine Martial Imperial Code continued to refine the immortal robe. Its glow gradually dimmed while the immortal robe's divine light became denser. Yi Qinghan's eyes shone brightly as he spat out another mouthful of essence blood onto the Taoist robe, causing it to cool down. It now looked like an immortal robe that could block all attacks. The 3 Taoist robes of the celestial sect had exhausted all of his strength. These 3 supreme treasures were refined for Renhuang Yi, himself, and Gu Qingyu. Naturally, it required even more effort. The Divine Martial Imperial Code returned to Yi Qinghan's sea of consciousness. Yi Qinghan kept the immortal robe and dripped a drop of his blood into it. It recognized him as its master and became majestic. His clothes danced in the wind and his body was as light as a swallow. He wore the Big Dipper gloves and merged with his body. He held the 7-foot Big Dipper frenzy. His wings, which were about 3 meters long, flapped the sky, wanting to kill his way out of hell and into the 9 heavens. Swoosh! In the blink of an eye, Yi Qinghan was back in the valley. He floated in the air effortlessly, causing Yi Lingyu's eyes to shine brightly. Boom! He attacked fiercely and broke 3 Big Dipper divine woods. He said to Yi Jianma, "Give me all the Tier 5 supreme pills. Once we get out of this hell, I'll pay you back double." Yi Jianma didn't dare to go against Yi Qinghan's will. He also wanted to leave this land of death as soon as possible. He quickly gave the remaining 2 supreme pills to Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan took the brocade box and rushed out of the canyon with the 3 Big Dipper divine woods. He quickly mobilized the earth fire to refine the divine woods and meteorites. He began to forge more immortal robes. Although they weren't as terrifying as the previous 3, they weren't ordinary either. They weren't inferior to the one on Foam Sha. More importantly, they had wings on their backs that were reinforced with the profound meaning of the law of gravity. Practice makes perfect. After forging the 3 best immortal robes, it was easy for Yi Qinghan to forge 6 ordinary immortal robes in an hour. He only reinforced them with the law of gravity, the element of darkness, and the element of water. He didn't use the divine martial emperor codex to refine them. After eating the 4th Tier 5 supreme pill, Yi Qinghan's vital essence poured out and penetrated his body. He instantly broke through the bottleneck of the 3rd step and stepped into the 4th step. His physical body was constantly refined while forging the immortal robes and became unparalleled in the world. At this moment, Yi Qinghan was confident that his current combat strength wasn't inferior to any of the great emperors when they were young. He chopped a few more divine Big Dipper trees and used the divine martial emperor codex to forge more than 10 immortal robes. Although they weren't as good as the previous 3, they were much more powerful than the previous 6. These immortal robes were forged for the Kuang sect. While forging the immortal robes, Yi Qinghan's strength was slowly improving. After swallowing the 5th Tier 5 supreme pill, Yi Qinghan's breath became deeper and deeper. It felt like he was turning into a mortal. It was very ordinary, but it gave people the feeling that he was suppressing the great Tao. Yi Qinghan didn't want to waste the last bit of material left. He suddenly thought of the parrot. This fellow's physical body was in a mess. Perhaps he could forge an immortal robe for it. If a spiritual pet could wear an immortal robe, it might be the first bird in history. Yi Qinghan carefully crafted a small immortal robe according to the parrot's body shape. The quality might be much better than the previous 3 immortal robes. After all, this immortal robe was very small, but it used a lot of materials. It didn't lack any magic formations and the profound meanings of elements. After being refined by the Book of God and Martial Emperor, it completely escaped into the sea of consciousness and temporarily fell into a deep sleep. Yi Qinghan returned to the canyon with this Taoist robe of the Immortal Gate. He gave Yi Lingyu 2 good Taoist robes of the Immortal Gate. They were the last batch, second only to the parrot and Yi Qinghan's own 3 Taoist robes. Yi Lingyu was very satisfied. With this Taoist robe of the Immortal Gate, even if the whole Xiaolong region became his enemy, so what? Lu Ning murmured. She wanted to say something but didn't dare. In the end, she lowered her head and her eyes turned red. Yi Qinghan chose an immortal robe of inferior quality and gave it to Lu Ning. He said in a dignified voice, "This immortal robe is to repay the kindness you showed me on the Shaoyun Star. I'll save you and leave. From now on, we'll have nothing to do with each other. After returning, the first thing I'll do is to kill those people from the Lu family. It's up to you whether you want to do it or not. Then, does our agreement still stand?" Lu Ning pursed her lips and took the immortal robe. She found that hers was obviously different from Yi Jianma's. She couldn't help but ask sadly. Yes. Yi Qinghan said coldly. He looked at the parrot and threw the smallest oddly shaped immortal robe to it. He said indifferently, try it and see if it fits. Damn. There's mine too. This divine bird knew that being loyal and devoted would definitely earn my master's love and care. The parrot had a smug look on its face. It found that its immortal robe was better than Yi Qinghan's. It couldn't help but feel moved. Although the parrot was afraid of bleeding, in order to recognize its master, it righteously cut its claw and dripped a drop of blood essence into the immortal robe. It instantly fit with the immortal robe. Its wings were slightly bigger than its wings. With a flutter, it could travel thousands of meters. Its speed was extremely fast. Ha ha ha, this divine bird is destined to be the divine emperor of all beasts. The parrot suddenly turned around and returned to Yi Qinghan's shoulder. It laughed arrogantly. Smug. Yi Jianma snorted. She was extremely dissatisfied with the parrot. Yi Qinghan sat cross-legged on the ground, recovering his true essence and qi. He was preparing to leave tonight. After all, the dark element was the densest here. With the support of the dark element and the law of gravity, their chances of escaping were much higher. Yi Jianma stared at the void. The 2 copper coins in her hand emitted a golden light that shot into the sky. Her expression changed greatly. She said in alarm, tonight, this Death Star will become lifeless. Yi Jianma was right, because this dead star was moving rapidly toward another huge dead star. Once they collided, the 2 dead stars would fuse together, and the fiery qi waves would instantly destroy the Iron Mountain and burn these people into nothingness. An hour later, Yi Qinghan's eyebrows twitched. He felt a terrifying sense of danger envelop this place, causing his heart to palpitate. Swish. 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 Yi Qinghan slashed out hundreds of times and dismembered dozens of divine dipper trees. He threw away all the random items in his spatial ring and put away all the divine dipper trees. He then collected a large number of meteorites and returned to the valley. He said to the others, let's join hands and rush out of here. Today is the day of our life and death. Swish. Swish, the wings on the immortal robe weren't big, but they were incomparably tough. With the support of many elemental laws, they blocked out most of the gravity and soared into the sky. The 2 Death Stars were also rapidly approaching. The friction caused monstrous flames that illuminated the entire death zone. Chapter 189. The 2 dead stars approached each other rapidly, and the flaming dragon pierced through the galaxy. Yi Qinghan and the others tied a 6th-rank whip together and flew into the void. The pressure was getting stronger and stronger, and the tearing force made the immortal sect robe flutter. Even the parrot was giving his all. Yi Qinghan and Yi Lingyu took the lead, and Lu Ning and Yi Jianma were dragged into the sky. 100 meters, 1,000 meters, 3,000 meters, the pressure increased by 1,000 times. If not for the immortal sect robe, the 4 of them would have been crushed into dust. His face was ferocious, and his blood essence was overflowing. Yi Jianma was held in Yi Lingyu's arms. He used the law of gravity to shield her from most of the tearing force, and she escaped death. Lu Ning's body was almost torn apart. Her body was twisted, and blood was flowing everywhere. She was dragged behind, and she was in a sorry state. Yi Qinghan reached out and grabbed her arm. He wasted some energy to protect her. The wings of the immortal sect robe were almost twisted. The divinity of the celestial star and the water profound origin made them terrifyingly flexible. Otherwise, they would have been broken. His true essence poured out quickly, and the pressure pushed everyone into hell. Lu Ning's last will to live helped her break through to the beginner level of the Tao Master realm. Her cultivation increased rapidly, and she nodded gratefully at Yi Qinghan. She could finally maintain flight. 10,000 meters in the sky, Yi Lingyu broke through to the Tao Master realm. He burst into the galaxy, almost dragging the few of them with him. However, at this height, the pressure had reached its peak. Even the parrot could not stand it. Blood gushed out of Yi Qinghan's eyes as he struck out violently. With one strike, he shattered the shackles. His blood chi erupted and his azure dragon arm exploded. With a spurt of energy, he broke through the completion of the fourth step of the Fate Palace and entered the realm of Tao Master. Whoosh! The aura of the invincible war monarch burst out. His true essence poured out and wrapped around the immortal sect robe. With the support of true essence, the immortal sect robe was even more terrifying, and its wings became more flexible. It spread its wings and flew tens of thousands of miles, pulling everyone out of the shackles of the dead stars. The dead star and another dead star instantly collided. Flames rushed out of the dead region, and the waves of fire swept the group of people countless miles away. The immortal sect Taoist robes radiated light in all directions, protecting them firmly. The high temperature almost roasted them alive. Boom! The other dead star was much smaller than the previous one. It directly created a huge crater in the dead star, while the dead star itself shattered into pieces. The high temperature melted the dead star, and terrifying high-temperature metal balls appeared. The density was definitely enough to make a 7th or even 8th grade material. Unfortunately, when the two dead stars fused together, the density and mass reached a level where even those in the Immortal Gate realm could not break free from it. If Yi Qinghan and the others were to enter now, they would be crushed to a pulp in an instant. The density of the dead stars was increased once again, and the gravitational force became stronger and stronger. The speed of selection became even more frenzied, and it began to continuously devour the stars. Puff, Yi Qinghan and the others spat out essence blood and were bathed in a river of blood. Even their immortal robes were dyed red as they tumbled through the air, allowing the shockwaves to batter them. By sheer coincidence, they were pushed out of the death zone. It had to be said that their luck was heaven-defying. The only one who was safe and unharmed was Yi Jianmo. She was in Yi Lingyu's arms and had escaped certain death. The group floated in the air for an unknown period of time. Yi Qinghan woke up from his coma. He felt as if his whole body had exploded, and not a single part of his body was intact. As for Lu Ning and Yi Lingyu, they were miserable. They had almost died. If they had not broken through in the end, they would have died without a doubt. The parrot was smart. Not only did it activate the immortal sect robe, but it also ran into Yi Qinghan's arms. It was almost unharmed and had a smug look on its face. Master, if it wasn't for me continuously transferring spiritual energy to you, you might not have woken up so early, the parrot boasted. Yi Qinghan nodded and swallowed a large amount of spirit medicine to heal his injured body. An hour later, Yi Lingyu and Lu Ning woke up. Yi Jianmo struggled out of Yi Lingyu's arms and was almost strangled to death. In the main region, Shi Gu and Zhu Zifeng were fighting fiercely. They used all their trump cards and fought until both sides were injured. The Saraira was almost crushed by the golden bricks. Zhu Zifeng was heartbroken. He could not force Shi Gu to retreat even with his high realm. For the sake of the Saraira's safety, he had to admit defeat. Kuang Zong had won 2 times. Xiahou Chen was furious. He stepped out and looked at Emperor Yi and the others coldly. He looked down on everyone and said arrogantly, "Who will fight me?" Emperor Yi walked out with the divine zither. Her white dress danced in the wind. She looked otherworldly. Her eyes were closed, making people feel that she was weak and wanted to take pity on her. Xiahou Chen's eyes turned cold. He glared at Feng Wuxia and shouted disdainfully, "Feng Wuxia, didn't you think you could fight me? Do you think I'll be merciful and spare her life if you let a reckless little girl come out?" Feng Wuxia's breath froze. He was about to rush out and fight when Wuxia pulled him back. Don't worry. Those who look down on senior sister will be trampled under my feet, Wuxia said proudly. Wuxia was shocked. He tried to break free from Wuxia's small hand, but he could not. Even the blood in his body seemed to be frozen. Emperor Yi was indifferent. She stood with her zither and did not even open her eyes to look at Xiaochen. She said softly, "Why don't you suppress your realm and fight me? I may not be able to defeat you in your peak state, but after suppressing my realm, I can kill you like a dog." Yi Futian's voice was as light as the wind and clouds. It was as ethereal as an immortal's, but it sounded extremely arrogant. Not only was Xiaochen furious, even Nangong Xiaobei felt that Renhuang Yi was too arrogant. If he could kill Xiaochen as easily as slaughtering a dog, wouldn't that mean that he could kill them as easily as slaughtering dogs? Ha ha ha, what an arrogant girl. Alright, since you think you can kill me like a dog, I will show you what it means to kill someone like a dog. Xiaochen was furious. He quickly suppressed his realm until it was at the peak of the fourth step of the Fate Palace realm. It gave people the impression that he was even more powerful. Boom, Xiaochen took a step forward. When he was 100 meters away from Emperor Yi, he waved his hand and a 5th-grade battle sword appeared. The sword chi was sharp, tearing the void apart. Begin. Nangong Qingyue said. Boom. Emperor Yi opened his eyes and shot out 2 terrifying beams of solid black light. The shadow of a divine Guqin and the black light tore through space. Even the solidified space was pierced through like 2 laser beams. They were indestructible and nothing could stand in their way. In an instant, they were in front of Xiaochen. Xiaochen's heart suddenly stopped and the blood in his body exploded. He hurriedly raised his sword to block Emperor Ye's gaze and the divine zither's shadow. Boom! Crack! 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 Pooh! The crisp sound of broken bones resounded in the surroundings. Xiaochen's arms exploded, and the weapon in his hand was almost shattered. It flew out of his hand and smashed into the void. Xiaochen did not even manage to hold on for a breath before he fell back madly. Step by step, he flew back dozens of steps. Buzz! Emperor Ye's 5 fingers pulled the strings and the sound turned into a blade that swooped down on Xiaochen. The sound broke through the air and directly exploded in everyone's sea of consciousness. Their divine senses were damaged and their souls were throbbing. Their faces were as pale as paper and they all retreated. Xiaochen, who was attacked by Emperor Yi with all his strength, narrowed his eyes and his eyes were full of horror. He spat out a mouthful of essence blood and his soul was almost destroyed by the sound. His flesh and blood were cut into pieces and bathed in a river of blood. Buzz! 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 The continuous sound of the zither was vigorous and surging with sharp attacks. It mobilized Xiaochen's qi and blood and almost made his blood vessels burst. Ah! Xiaochen was furious. He did not expect Emperor Yi to be so terrifying. His genuine essence poured out and instantly broke through the seal. He returned to the peak of the Tao Master realm. His momentum was monstrous. He grabbed the void and the sword returned. His killing intent rushed into the sky. I want you to die. Xiaochen was burning with anger. He no longer cared about his face and was ready to use his strongest battle force to kill Emperor Yi. Stop! Xiaochen, you have lost. Nangong Qingyue instantly stood in the middle and looked at Xiaochen coldly. Everyone gasped. Xiaochen, who was known to be invincible among his peers in the Shaolong domain, could not last more than 3 breaths in front of Emperor Yi and was almost killed. This made the Taoist hearts of many king-ranked experts tremble. They looked at Emperor Ye's extraordinary face with awe in their hearts. Emperor Yi was still standing with the zither in his arms. He closed his eyes and said indifferently, "Senior, are you going to suppress me with a higher realm? Xiaohochen clenched his iron fists. His fifth-grade sword whistled and he did not hide his killing intent. If it were not for Nangong Qingyue standing in front of him, he would definitely kill Emperor Yi without hesitation. Nangong Qingyue, get out of the way! Xiaohochen shouted in a hoarse voice. Xiaohochen, I'm the referee. Don't be so shameless. You have lost now. Either admit defeat or get out of the main region. However, this bet of 10,000 high-grade spirit crystals belongs to the crazy sect. Nangong Qingyue did her job and did not back down. Brother Xiaoho, calm down. Don't lose face and dignity. We agreed to fight at the same level. Now that you have used a higher realm, how can we explain this? Nangong Xiaobei asked with a frown. This demoness is not human. What is this about face and dignity? As long as I kill her, I will be fighting for the human race. Xiaohochen said coldly. You're crazy. You can't beat her and you're saying she's not human. Then are there any other powerhouses in the human race? Yi Mengshi mocked disdainfully. How can there be a human with such eyes? Her eyes are full of destructive energy. She's clearly a ferocious spirit. Xiaohochen was furious and was about to attack again. I think you're not human. How can there be a human with such thick skin like you? How can you be more despicable than a divine bird? Yi Mengshi was furious. Her hands trembled as she was about to attack, but she was stopped by Nangong Qingyue. The surrounding aura became gloomy and cold. Everyone was silent as they looked at Emperor Yi. Emperor Ye's expression was gloomy. Her eyes had always been her inner demon and she could not see them. Now that she opened her eyes, she could feel a violent destructive energy. Although this was a great help, she would rather not have it. With just her zither Dao, she could still be invincible in this world. Nangong Qingyue, you better not be willful. This demoness is definitely not human. When she grows up, she will definitely bring disaster to the world. It's best to kill her today or you will regret it in the future. Xiaohochen warned coldly. What proof do you have that she's not human? She defeated you with her eyes alone and you say she's not human. Isn't that a bit too far-fetched? Nangong Qingyue argued. She had never seen a human with such terrifying eyes. She was indeed a bit uneasy. Then let's ask a martial sovereign to come out and verify. Xiaohochen was extremely confident. He was certain that Emperor Yi was not human. Chapter 190. In the main region, a group of kings surrounded the people of the insane sect. They believed Xiaohochen's words and felt that Emperor Yi was not a human. His eyes were too terrifying. They notified the great revered experts of their clans to come and force Emperor Yi to open his eyes. Emperor Yi opened his eyes for the safety of the disciples of the insane sect. His eyes were filled with destruction. The divine zither's shadow was stuck in his eyes. It was extremely terrifying. This, the great revered experts looked at each other in dismay. Very few people knew about the zither immortal scarlet demon physique. After all, this physique had gone through the savage era, the desolate era, the 10,000 ancient times and until now. There were only 2 people with such a terrifying physique. There were no records of it in history. Only the divine martial imperial codex mentioned it a few times. Only Yi Qinghan could recognize it. Is she really a demoness? What clan is she from? A great revered expert frowned and said. Who cares what clan she is from? Just kill her. Another great revered expert said coldly. He did not have the slightest bit of emotion. He had the feeling that he would rather kill 100 people than let an evil spirit go. Kill your mother. If you dare to touch a hair on her head, I'll crush your entire clan. Gu Qinyu stepped into the main region and shouted coldly. The main region was shaken. There had never been a great revered expert who dared to use force in the main region. Today, the atmosphere was filled with killing intent. Gu Qingyu came over, sword in hand. One man and one sword stood in front of Ren Huangyi. A hint of disdain appeared at the corner of his mouth. Gu Qingyu. You still dare to come to the main region. More than 10 great revered experts were furious. They opened their communication talismans to inform Azura Qian Yi and Emperor Yi. Emperor Yi had been beaten half to death by Feng Sha. He had been hiding in his dynasty to recuperate for 3 years. Once he came out, his evil aura would definitely fill the sky. A while ago, Feng Sha used the immortal sect's Taoist robe to bully others. Even Nangong Yuanhong did not dare to do anything to him. Even though he had disappeared for a long time, his prestige was still there. Just mentioning him made the great revered experts tremble in fear. What's so great about the main region? I can go wherever I want. Can you all stop him? Gu Qingyu's gaze was like a sword, sweeping over everyone, intimidating everyone. You guys leave first and return to Owl Fall Star. Gu Qingyu said to Emperor Yi. Today, anyone can leave, but you and Ren Huangyi cannot. More than 10 martial venerables were incomparably tyrannical as they instantly surrounded Emperor Yi and Gu Qingyu. Sister Xue, take them back to the eccentric sect first. Emperor Yi took a deep breath and said in a deep voice. Boom! An enormous cloud-piercing ship appeared in the sky. Its speed was extremely fast, and it smashed down like a meteor. Fuck! Who dares to hurt my son? Khan Stan's voice was like a sudden clap of thunder. As soon as Khan Stan appeared, Stan Zhengquang immediately rushed out from behind. Clearly, he was the one who had informed Khan Stan. Stan Khan looked at Stan Zhengquang and was very satisfied that he had chosen to inform him for Stan Wuxia's safety. Zhengquang, this old man is very satisfied with your performance. Retreat to the back first. This old man wants to see who wants to kill my son today. Stan Wuxia's golden bloodline was Khan Stan's reverse scale. Whoever dared to have crooked thoughts, he would definitely risk his life. At this moment, his face was filled with anger as he coldly looked at the martial venerables. Everyone looked at each other in dismay, feeling very innocent. Old man Stan, who's your son? Emperor Yi. Isn't her surname Yi? Who wants to kill your son? Everyone felt very innocent as they angrily cursed. Fuck your mother, can't you see that my good grandson is obediently staying here? You guys are surrounding him and shouting and scolding. A group of shameless old things, shouting and shouting at a group of children. Has your Tao heart been eaten by dogs? Khan Stan definitely had a violent temper. At this moment, he was unable to restrain his anger. Everyone was infuriated. Who was going to shout about killing that little brat? This Khan Stan was a bit too overbearing and unreasonable. Brother Stan, you can leave with your grandson. Today's matter is a grudge between us and Gu Qingyu. It has nothing to do with you. Emperor Yi drove the dragon carriage over. The ferocious beast's roar shook 10,000 li, Amitba, those who have nothing to do with this, leave immediately. Today, I will purify this demoness and Gu Qingyu, this devil. Azura Qian Yi also rushed over. Even Buddhist techniques couldn't conceal his evil. In the entire Shaolong region, there were at least close to 1,000 martial venerables. At this moment, at least 300 of them had gathered in the main region. Most of them were here to watch the show, but close to 100 of them had enmity with Gu Qingyu, or it could be said that they had participated in the massacre of Shao Zhanqing back then. If you have enmity, come at me alone. Martial venerables, so what if you join hands? What kind of ability is it to deal with a 10-year-old girl? I will block all enmity with my sword. Gu Qingyu unsheathed his sword. Sword Qi rushed into the sky. The mighty 6th grade divine weapon covered the sky and the earth. Can you block it? Don't think that you can be invincible in the world just because you stole the Buddhist heart sword seed relic. This world won't allow such a vicious person like you to cultivate. I will take care of you on behalf of the heavens. Azuric Xianyi flew into a rage. When he saw the 6th grade divine sword in Gu Qingyu's hand, he was burning with anger. This 6th grade divine weapon should have belonged to him, but at this moment, Yi Qinghan and Yi Qinghan's group finally found the direction. They sped all the way and parted ways halfway. Yi Qinghan went straight to Shao Zhanqing and arrived at the Blood River in the Yi clan's ruins. He sat down cross-legged and gathered the baleful aura and murderous aura of the entire star. From the depths of the Star River, it could be clearly seen that the entire Shao Zhanqing had turned into a ghost region. The baleful aura pervaded the air and it was eerie. Fierce winds whistled and ghost flames were everywhere. All the evil spirits and baleful aura pounced towards the Yi clan's ruins. They wanted to devour Yi Qinghan, but they were devoured by the violent heavy saber instead. Yi Qinghan used the baleful aura and murderous aura to temper his body. Divine light pervaded the air and it was incomparably terrifying. Yi Qinghan looked like a demon god in contrast. He could scare the evil spirits to death just by opening his eyes. If Yi Qinghan knew about what happened in the main region, he would definitely not come here to temper his body first. Instead, he would kill his way to the main region and take revenge. In the main region, Nangong Yuanhong arrived with a few unfamiliar experts. They were the experts of the immortal sect that he had invited from the endless universe. They wanted to destroy the dead stars in the dead region. They happened to see many great revered martial artists surrounding a group of children and couldn't help but frown. What are you all doing? Nangong Yuanhong was furious. He released his aura and the experts' legs went soft. They all knelt down one after another. Greetings to the Domain Lord. Although many of the crazy sect's disciples had strong willpower, they couldn't resist the will of the immortal sect's experts. Only Emperor Yi, Lin Wutian, and Stan Wuxia stood behind Gu Qingyu. They were extremely conspicuous and proud. As for Yi Mingxi, the person who made her kneel had not been born yet. She was afraid of Emperor Yi and Yi Qinghan. No one could make her kneel down in fear. In addition to these people, there was another weirdo, Tai Hua. He looked at Nangong Yuanhong with watery eyes. He was curious but not afraid. Nangong Yuanhong was satisfied with everyone's performance. When he glanced at Gu Qingyu and the others, he frowned. There was satisfaction in his eyes but also some dissatisfaction. Gu Qingyu and the juniors of the crazy sect greet the Domain Lord. Gu Qingyu slightly cupped his fists and said indifferently. Crazy sect. Gu Qingyu. Nangong Yuanhong had been in seclusion for a long time. Even if he wasn't in seclusion, he wouldn't be interested in the outside world. For him, those who didn't enter the immortal sect were just ants. Therefore, he didn't know Gu Qingyu and the other supreme battle kings of the previous generation. Feng Sha followed Nangong Yuanhong. He carried the soul-devouring Tachi on his back. He narrowed his eyes and looked at Gu Qingyu. His battle intent surged out. This kind of battle intent could only be released by an invincible existence in the same realm. When he released his battle intent, it already showed that Gu Qingyu was worthy of being his opponent. Gu Qingyu also noticed Feng Sha. He looked at the word kill on his shoulder. His divine sword whistled and his aura soared into the sky. He looked like an invincible battle king. Not bad, somewhat interesting. Nangong Yuanhong was quite satisfied with Gu Qingyu's cultivation and will. Grandpa, you have to take care of these people. They have nothing to do all day and only know how to bully others with their numbers. Nangong Qingyue flew to Nangong Yuanhong's side and acted like a spoiled child. Nangong Yuanhong's forehead was filled with black lines. Domain Lord, this boy and that demoness aren't good people. Gu Qingyu comprehended the solitary sword Dao and entered the Dao through killing. As for that demoness, she's definitely not a human. She's most likely a demon genius or even an evil spirit. Killing them will greatly benefit the human race. Emperor Shenyi knelt on one knee and said in a deep voice. Amitabha, Domain Lord, these two will certainly be a disaster for the human race. Today, we have to take the opportunity to eliminate them. Azura Qianyi said with compassion. He put his palms together and bowed. Demon genius. Evil spirit. The aura of the elders who followed Nangong Yuanhong turned cold as they stared at Emperor Yi. These three elders were all veteran experts of the immortal sections. They were even more powerful than Nangong Yuanhong. Moreover, they were pedantic people. They were incomparably ruthless when dealing with demon geniuses and evil spirits. They wouldn't let the wrong person go. Grandpa, don't listen to his nonsense. Xia Haochen said that he would fight against Emperor Yi at the same level. In the end, he fought against Emperor Yi and was injured by Emperor Ye's eyes. He couldn't even withstand a single move and framed Emperor Yi as a demoness. This is simply ridiculous. Nangong Qingyue was incomparably angry. This was her first time being a judge. She thought it was quite fun. Unexpectedly, such a result occurred. She was very dissatisfied with Xia Haochen. Nangong Yuanhong's eyes were like torches as he looked at Gu Qingyu and Emperor Yi. He couldn't see the slightest bit of seductiveness or fierceness from Emperor Yi. However, at least he knew that Gu Qingyu was a prideful genius. Although he looked cold, he actually had principles in his heart. He absolutely wouldn't kill the innocent. His eyes can injure an emperor expert in an instant. Nangong Yuanhong asked curiously. Yes, Emperor Yi is the second strongest emperor expert in the younger generation, second only to brother Tianqian. Therefore, Emperor Yi is a genius. You should protect him. He might be able to bring glory to our Xiaolong region. Nangong Qingyue pulled Nangong Yuanhong and shook him, causing the dignified domain lord to lose his dignity. Little girl, open your eyes and let this old man have a look. Nangong Yuanhong was very curious. There weren't many people who could make Nangong Qingyue have a whole new level of respect. Emperor Ye's divine sense sensed Nangong Yuanhong. He slightly raised his head and opened his gloomy eyes. The destructive aura shattered the heavens and rushed towards Nangong Yuanhong. It was completely out of her control. Nangong Yuanhong didn't care and allowed the gaze to land on himself. When the terrifying destructive aura approached the immortal robe, the robe emitted a divine light and directly emitted smoke. In the blink of an eye, the robe was destroyed. He was immediately shocked and poured out his true yuan in an attempt to block Emperor Ye's destructive gaze. However, even his true yuan was ignited. The experts of the immortal sects were all shocked. They looked at the gloomy eyes that seemed to be the reincarnation of hell. Their eyes revealed a trace of murderous intent. Emperor Yi closed his eyes and felt the disgust and murderous intent in the surroundings. His heart was sad as he held the divine zither tightly with both hands. A drop of tear flowed out from under his eyelids. The heaven and earth were mourning, and 10,000 Daos were rumbling. Jian Qinxue wanted to reach out and grab Ren Huangyi, but Ren Huangyi dodged her. She was not willing to trust anyone at all. In Ren Huangye's eyes, she might really be a monster, as long as her master and uncle were sincerely protecting her. It's impossible for the human race to have eyes like hers. Maybe she really is an evil spirit. An elder of the immortal sects coldly said with a murderous intent. Chapter 191. It's impossible for a human to have eyes like hers. Maybe she really is an evil spirit. An old man from the immortal sect said coldly with killing intent. The words of the immortal sect's expert basically sentenced Emperor Yi to death. Emperor Yi took a step back vigilantly. His 5 fingers grasped the zither strings tightly. Blood splattered everywhere and dyed the divine zither red. Wait, Whether or not she is an evil spirit should be sent to the endless universe and ask the Almighty to determine. If she is a human, don't you think it's a pity to kill a peerless genius? Feng Sha frowned. He also had some doubts in his heart. In the entire history of the human race, no one had ever had such eyes. There were many evil spirits who killed with their eyes. Fellow cultivator, once the evil spirits know about this kind of existence, they will definitely send a terrifying existence to kidnap her. After a few years, the evil spirit's strength will increase greatly. The human race will be in danger. Another immortal sect expert reminded in a deep voice. The three immortal sect experts, the black-clothed one was the heavenly fate immortal, the white-clothed one was the white-beard immortal, and the purple-clothed one was the purple cloud demon. They were the experts of the White Tiger region's three great immortal sect experts. They were all senior immortal sect experts and their battle strength was not inferior to Nangong Yuanhong's. The three great immortal sects all wanted to kill Emperor Yi and didn't give her any chance. Feng Sha's expression was somewhat unsightly. He knew that these immortal sect experts didn't treat great revered experts as humans. They were all ants. The reason why they were so polite to him was because of the kill word on their clothes. They were afraid of his organization. I won't let you kill her. As the supreme immortal sect experts, shouldn't you investigate clearly in advance? In order to kill the evil spirit, you don't care about other people's feelings? Gu Qingyu coldly questioned. Ignorant junior, how can you interrupt me when I am speaking? Kneel down. Purple Cloud Demon's aura erupted. The immortal sect's aura was like the will of the heavens as it pressed down on Gu Qingyu. It wanted to force him to kneel down and submit. Gu Qingyu held the divine sword tightly. His clothes were cold and almost torn apart. His black hair danced in the wind. He felt like he was withstanding a huge force that caused his legs to change shape. However, he would rather die than kneel down. Grandfather, he is Xiaolong region's previous generation supreme war king, Yu. Nangong Qingyue was shocked and quickly pleaded with Nangong Yuanhong. Nangong Yuanhong shook his head and signaled for Nangong Qingyue to calm down, but he didn't know why. It's easy for you to kill me, but you aren't qualified to make me kneel. The corners of Gu Qingyu's mouth curled up. The sword in his hand was about to rush into the sky, releasing a long whistle, sword energy soaring into the sky. Then I'll grant you your wish. Zi Yunsha sneered. An ant dared to oppose him. What was so great about a supreme battle king? Every era, there would be one or two supreme battle kings. Emperor Yi did not want Gu Qingyu to be implicated, so he soared into the sky and coldly said, if you want to kill me, then come. There's no need to implicate others. Gu Qingyu was shocked. Renhuang Yi was only at the Fate Palace plain. If the cultivator from the Celestial Gate wanted to kill her, it would only take a thought. Just as he was about to fly over and block the attack, the cultivator from the Celestial Gate acted quickly. He grabbed the air with his large hand and pulled Renhuang Ye's body down. Boom! Renhuang Ye's body exploded in the air. Blood and bone splattered everywhere. The divine Gu Qin exploded and blocked the fatal attack, giving her a chance to catch her breath. However, the white-bearded deity also made his move at this moment. He flicked his finger, and a wisp of spiritual qi pierced through the void, intending to penetrate Renhuang Ye's body and destroy his soul. Everyone from the insane sect was in despair. Si Wuxia's golden bloodline exploded. His eyes were like the sun, and his golden hair pierced through the void, shaking the ages. Roar! Si Wuxia roared like a wild beast. His aura soared into the galaxy, causing everyone's vital energy to stagnate. You dare to kill my sister? I'll make your entire clan pay with their lives. His voice broke through the air, causing the Celestial Gate Master's vital energy to stagnate. It was as if he was being watched by a supreme power. However, the white-bearded immortal had already attacked and rushed behind Emperor Yi in the blink of an eye. There was no way to stop it. Whoosh! A black dragon broke through the air, and the murderous aura that filled the sky shook the 9 heavens. The owl-dragon region was instantly shaken. A domineering and terrifying aura broke through the air from the ancient times, crossing countless eras and slashing directly to the present. It instantly destroyed the Celestial Gate Master's ultimate attack, causing the Tao hearts of the immortal sect to tremble. Not good. An evil spirit is attacking. This demonic woman is indeed an evil spirit. Kill. We can't let her escape. The Celestial Gate Master was furious. Attacks came from all directions, all rushing towards Emperor Yi. The great Tao in the surroundings roared, and thousands of techniques descended. Boom! The space where Emperor Yi was at collapsed. The violent spatial wind blades tore everything apart. Emperor Yi's figure disappeared instantly. Ah! See Wuxia roared toward the sky. After cultivating for 3 years, the only sister he acknowledged was killed without a trace. This caused his bloodline to explode. The ancient golden bloodline roared, and all the masters within a radius of 10,000 meters knelt on the ground, as if welcoming the arrival of a supreme emperor. Wuxia! Calm down. Khan Stan was shocked. He knew that things were not going well. With the birth of the golden bloodline, it was unknown how many experts and ferocious beasts would be attracted. Even the ferocious spirits might come out and kill this terrifying monster in the cradle. The Celestial Gate Master's eyes were filled with shock. They didn't know about the Zither immortal crimson demon physique, but how could they not know about the golden bloodline? This was the royal bloodline of the human race. It was a supreme existence. When it was just born, it could receive the treatment of a supreme being. All of you deserve to die. Si Wuxia ignored Si Khan and stepped forward. His eyes were emotionless as he glared at the 3 celestial gates. Golden bloodline. The ancestral bloodline of the Si Stan clan. He is reverting to his ancestors. Oh my God! His blood is reverting to his ancestors. The Celestial Gate Master was shocked. Nangong Yuanhong stepped in front of him and protected him. He looked at the other 3 celestial gates cautiously. I allow you to kill yourselves. Or wait for me to crush you personally in the future. Si Wuxia's voice was filled with a terrifying will as he looked down on the 3 celestial gates. We. Zi Yunsha and the rest trembled. The birth of the golden bloodline meant that one was the emperor. Whoever dared to blaspheme would definitely be suppressed by the emperor of the human race. Feng Sha was overjoyed. This was the best candidate to join their organization. If they found this treasure, the organization would bestow them with supreme treasures. Killing the Celestial Gate Master would be done in an instant. Feng Sha stood in front of Si Wuxia without hesitation. The Celestial Gate Master's robe was activated, and the word kill shook the world. All of you deserve to die. A terrifying and hoarse voice sounded as if it came from an evil spirit that crawled out from the depths of hell. It was emotionless and made people's scalps go numb. Even the Celestial Gate Master's body tensed up as he turned to look into the distance. A black robe fluttered in the wind, and celestial light shot out in all directions. His wings were almost transparent, and with a light flap, a ripple appeared in the void. He held a 7-foot divine blade in his hand, and the woman in his arms was none other than Emperor Yi. Emperor Yi had never trusted anyone so much. The divine zither disappeared, and when she saw the appearance of the newcomer, tears fell like rain. A sense of security. This was the sense of security that she would not be afraid of even if the sky fell. Even the divine zither could not give her such a sense of security. The figure approached from afar, and the wind god's handsome face exuded a gloomy murderous aura. It was as if an ancient demon god had descended, and his demonic blade could destroy a world. Master. Brother. It's him. The robe he is wearing is the Celestial Gate Master's robe. The people of the Kuang sect were overjoyed. Yi Mengshi thought that Emperor Yi had been killed, and when she saw that Emperor Yi was safe in Yi Qinghan's arms, she could not help but wipe her tears and rush toward Yi Qinghan. Shi Gu was shocked. 3 years ago, when Yi Qinghan left, it was only at the first step of the Fate Palace. Now, it had grown to this level. His blood boiled, and he could not wait to kill and break through the shackles. Feng Wuxia's heart trembled, and his palms were full of sweat. He was excited and emotional. Feng Sha held the Soul Devourer Tachi tightly, and a look of horror flashed in his eyes. 3 years ago, when he saw Yi Qinghan, he felt that he could be trained. 3 years later, when he saw Yi Qinghan again, he knew that he was no match for him. It's him. Impossible. He has already died from self-destruction. Shu Qianyi roared as if he had gone mad. His eyes were full of fear. He was very familiar with Yi Qinghan's aura. Moreover, in the past 3 years, Yi Qinghan's appearance had been imperceptibly changed, and there was no difference between him and his previous life. The most important thing was his aura. That kind of disdainful gaze and the invincible war venerable aura was something that no one could imitate. Yi Qinghan. He is Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan who died 11 years ago. This is impossible. Lu Su was terrified, and his hair stood on end. He was even more frightened than when he saw an evil spirit. He felt that Yi Qinghan was the most terrifying evil spirit in the world. Yi Qinghan. Yi Qingquang. They are actually the same person. Shi Gu was shocked. In the past few years, the people he admired the most were Yi Qinghan and Gu Qingyu. They dared to kill 100 great martial venerables with one sword and one saber. This kind of thing was nothing if it happened to an immortal sect expert, but when it happened to a great martial venerable, it was too terrifying. He is. Nangong Qingyue and Nangong Xiaobei's complexion became deathly pale. Yi Qinghan's appearance was too terrifying. How could a dead person reappear in this world? Nangong Yuanhong frowned. Why did everyone's face look as if they had seen a ghost? However, Yi Qinghan's aura was indeed too terrifying. It was so terrifying that even immortal sect experts felt threatened. Who is he? Someone from my Xiaolong region. Nangong Yuanhong looked at Nangong Qingyue, as if he wanted to know Yi Qinghan's identity. Ah! He is Yi Qinghan of Xiao War Planet. He fought against 100 great martial venerables alone, killed 30 great martial venerables, and killed hundreds of Dao venerables. In the end, because he was threatened, he chose to self-destruct. He is my idol. Nangong Qingyue was excited and frightened. No one would be able to accept this kind of thing if it happened to them. Yi Qinghan, who was shrouded in a baleful aura, had a cold aura. He held the 7-foot berserk hammer and descended to the main region. He looked down at everyone and stared indifferently at the 3 immortal sections. The killing intent in his eyes was self-evident. Today, not only would he take revenge, he would also massacre the immortal sects. Ha ha ha, brother, you have finally returned. I thought I wouldn't have the chance to see you again. Gu Qingyu laughed loudly. His aura erupted and his battle intent soared to the heavens. He would fight alongside Yi Qinghan. So what if he killed his way into hell? How can I let you fight alone? Yi Qinghan's voice was like thunder. He officially acknowledged his identity. He waved his hand and a precious immortal sect robe appeared in his hand. It was domineering and baleful aura revolved around it. Wear it. Today, accompany me to slaughter this shameless brat from Xiaolong region. It was another immortal sect robe. Moreover, this immortal sect robe had wings. It was completely different from the wings of the immortal sect experts. My son, this is the immortal sect robe that I specially made for you. Wear it and watch me trample this group of trash. I will take revenge for you. Yi Qinghan's hand trembled and a divine light radiated in all directions. It was like a fairy's dress, suffused with a holy light. The most important thing was that it actually had 4 wings. It could increase the owner's endless speed. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.